Well, Yamam, good evening. Yamam Wakwaba, Jasu Jumedi, live on OK 101.7 FM. So, and yes, I'm live on your partner radio stations. I will run now more pick live in Kukrin to me. I will make Gachu FM, High Live Radio, or Maryland, Baltimore, DC area. Honina NASPA Radio, so pick live, or London. At the Fupa Media, pick live, or France and Belgium, and King's Jersey Radio, so pick live. All the way from OK FM, no. We are blasting across the globe, baby. Europe, near America, you know, ATF. From a lady, if you're poker, and then Yamo Akwaba, because you will be looking at issues, say, national issues, say, here, wo, here, me. Issues, a national issues, say, here, me, and the war. Because you have caught into elections, I can barely 6 months near Drew elections, the more, and the because you can't technically first week of December, and year to abanity. Yeah, shadam pony exactly 6 months. But limited voter registration exercise na cost ye nyina hu ntoko awom ene ye one on one ye ne professor Kwaku Asare obi anim ne say ye kan obi a oye mini de lanom ne ade ye share professor Asare de be ebo ni din say agence provocateur or you obi a he can shake and provoke the system, which is what ye nyina wasn't ye anyway. President Rawlings say cause when nya ye kra, there's one thing that President Rawlings na de bia no kan wasem, which is obi anya positive defiance. Positive defiance. Sometimes in agitating for change, you know, and yet agitation for change, sometimes the positive defiance that you hear is that but yes, you are able to push and make change. You are able to make noise and make change. And then I'm saying, what happened? I say, your landscape, no near and I was asking myself, say, the kind of even what across Europe near America, but particularly in America. Now we cry graduation across Britain and US. Graduation do around all the colleges near there. The school campuses no about a platform and a tool for causing change, for provoking change. Is that the process? Sorry, and I was asking myself, so what happened to our universities? What happened to our tertiary institutions now? Because in the 80s, even in the 80s, so even the struggle for independence, you can see that your education systems, institutions, especially universities and tertiary institutions, they were a key part of Ghana's struggle for independence. Post-independence, after independence, your universities now were part of Ghana. Just say, what's your energy, activism? I did on mind, you're building the spirit of patriotism, which Obi to say, Professor Asare, consistently he's shown it. And yet, they be on fire to change the system. From changes of better or law school, all the way to changes in constitutional law. Go be on $1 broche. Seriously, who got na broche kakra? Now who coins a kakra now for Jena? Nothing will push anybody to come back to Ghana. And yet, any panel or dot Emma or minor. Baby, they call broche or the bosom tree or the bosom field. No, it's sunny. They don't want to have anything to do with Ghana. But it takes the person who or Ghana or June Ghana or what Ghana want jumpa. Person Ghana change because really, what's just Ghana in the first black African country? What's sub-Saharan Africa? You're independence. There is no reason why Ghana should be where it is now. And what I'm saying, yes, Ghana has seen a lot of growth and development. Ghana couldn't, but the speed, slow motion, Ghana this is not how Ghana should be growing. Ghana should be way ahead everybody. Yeah, G independence, not Ghana classmates, your Korea for 1 money. Dubai for Kwana to Ghana. In fact, Ghana Airways, Ghana Airways 1956, no. Not Dubai for any airline, no. Dubai for your airline in the 80s. And no come free plane too. Malaysia for only Pakistan for no free plane. And then Emirates is the 10th largest airline. In the 50s, now Ghana, you Black Star Line, you ship no. You need Israel for one and a bosso. And Israel for your independence, like 8 years just before Ghana. 8 years just before Ghana. And then you're a classmate in Israel for. You can't want superpowers, Israel for come. Apart from the biblical things, how the argument of they got independence 8-9 years before Ghana. We are nowhere near them. Dubai, cry a mail. And then Black Star Line, now, 1950, I hear and Chroma de Mayeno. Now, you 2 ships. Yes, Uncle G, 2 ships, a honey or 4 ships. We were flying between Temahabo all the way to Greece, Morocco, Italy, any other coffin number. That is how far Ghana. Yes, slow motion, they connecting Ghana, Yejano. Especially under my penny, Excellency, and another go Gufado. Because we thought, say, some catalysts. I bet me push Ghana transformation no. Nothing Kuma nye na adwuma no a. Na President Kufuor de kakra no ka President Kufuor be ye no. Atama so money ade beto us under Fourth Republic no. Ye nya hwe kra na nanado. That is why Ghana for only I think that to some extent Ghana voters smart to some extent you see because ye share that ye dey amemoni man nanado in nkokra bom. There was a reason. Because we thought so with the experience of age, what elections a couple of times I will lose a political experience I will accumulate over the years. No, see, I dey man anado nen kokra bremwa. Well, this was an anado buy no ya branti ekumi precaution ya farmer no cause nkofo bebre so na ne commercial and an anado and an eni so dodo we gidi dodo o ma farmer no. And they thought any old age when you experience or the betina he was the catalyst. He will be a glue noir. Obetimi Ghana ama atari Korea Ghana atari Dubai. We've made some progress, but not the progress that we wanted, not the progress that we voted for. Number one, rule of law. Emra Koyejima make us say they are chasing the special prosecutor out of office. Let us ask Gabi. Yembusa santibedi eto ni yembusa aban panifo nyina attorney general included me amebo no be na me fire attorney general omu nyina CJ mu nyina included. If one of the key things MPP for the year campaign issue ankofo bebre say Nanado aben mmento abanema no was that Nanado consistently campaigning say oba change the way attorney general department because there's no reason why a aban lawyer should also be the attorney general because there's conflict of interest. Or because a buying or tia should be at each point in time. A party a buying because party in a war buying. And see a separating only office of attorney general. Ni a first government lawyer. Two different at least in independence prosecution. And one of the key reasons why I'm MPP for this idea issue was that the issue against NDC over the years under Fourth Republic from President Rawlings' time, quality grain, corruption, all the way to President Kufuor time, how Isegu or say at the end 10%, Sikane about wa, all the way to pay assem, all the way to Prof. Satamosa, where you may issue by a Prof. Satamosa of Frey Yoko for a Attorney General Department at a Mamun Chesikane ma a way you may Omuko Cheskanama where you may. And all those issues, no, because we've had corruption issues under Fourth Republic. So what I say, it's from that time, and man and I do message now can say on your best separating office, no, so that we'll get another department. They will be prosecuting all the corruption, reduce all the corruption, and to cement it the icing on the cake. No, now do inaugural speech no Independence Square. No, one of the things a man and inaugural speech became one of the most phenomenal speeches in the history of Ghana. Until some conform to say speeches, no baby, and omediation plagiarism. Eugene was that okay key? He will protect the public, and the president was very emphatic. Or say, I will protect one case. I remember. He said, I shall protect the public purse. It was mandatory on himself. I'm not kind to make me use it figuratively so because before you say, I shall just say by force. What the atom wants to say mandatorily obey, and you say open obey, and you say you're convenient, and you say a kind of what say I shall protect us. You will do it. You shall do it. You are enjoying to do it. There is no option but to do it. That is what shall not at here. And says the area and another by a corruption. I could saying, oh, free SHS will deliver you. Uncle be that Bontene are there, or Munya and Papa any bad list to a large extent. Why? One do you want to have in a bad list? Why you be? But corruption. How much corruption and another are fighting? What to me succeeded the special prosecutor about Obieniaji. Yakofa Matiami do some of us said from day one, say, Mati Amidu ya mo kofani. Say political point pan na mpese mo score. Why are you bringing Mati Amidu? For what? When him say Mati Amidu mama o nyira mama be fi akonya so. Wa find almost sa no di fi akonya so. Oh, so Mati Amidu selection was an issue of young political point being scored number 1, number 2. Yen sha say Mati Amidu de nani we can use him. Na papa no say I dey case be on my baby person dey kono. I'm quoting Mati Amidu. Makanda da say na no yera Martin Pebu ba me kan say Mati Amidu onye nyame. Nye de obeka nyina na 100% there. But if they say Mati Amidu a Obelebu NDC for say Mahama ye corrupt. MPP for believe you. Moko find the special prosecutor say afede momo ye mother of serpent no. Afede now I asem. You see sometimes no ube siri dua amanase na wotentene. Ube twedua na dua na manase tet. Sa na MPP for ye Mati Amidu. And Mati Amidu ko moko fa ye rejabe ba. Ye rejabe ba and I remember vividly from the vetting. The issue was that Gabi mo boy sinibi. And no say onye obi boy, ono onye akra sa no nam ho. Adwuma no beye. And to prove on himself say adwuma no betimi aye no. Gabi kise Gabi ba no fire sa. Okochi we aye say. Okochi we aye say. Technicalities. Ani am kate Ghana there. Yeah, a law no there is good say a best law, but the law must be a tool for development. The law I mean yeah. Law should not be studied in vacuum. Law, framers of constitution, the essence of democracy by a codi or mocha, your constitution be a rule of law. The essence of it, but I watch the pan say it will be a tool for development, a tool for building confidence in people, because a building confidence and a better development. To the extent that an limited registration society and Crawford change second polling station. Why? Because case court baby 1,000 years me papa cases in point. Ataba for versus TDC. Over 20 years, papa no crow. We na case no yeah. It's how many people? And for 2020 elections, 8 years on, families in so more petition first CJ. Why is it that on mind back on your team? So obey justice, and this will be a petition. This why? You see, but I'm saying that increasingly Ekoswa is creating the perception say Kent is court to a check. Intina obinya asem say wo betro udin na ye na wa wo twa udin no yakola wo nure a one I no die first a police station. And it's dangerous because election where I hear is a make or break election. Inti yourself CJ kakra kan sa na Ghana yakoto abana CJ catch judges no any ade nyina say elections mu case bia wo court bia mo making sure somebody fast adjudication mo yen in time because we cannot continue like this. The more I bet you know, the more it will force people to take the law into their hands, and it's dangerous. We are heading towards election. Should you see DR Congo? Once come here cool. DR Congo come here cool. Africa na yetene enye better say how bibi abetimi asi 6 months to election bibi cool crowd betimi asi 6 months to elections. Anything can happen. Your security situation ain't 100% sir. Yet why you Nigeria ain't stable, Burkina ain't stable, Niger ain't stable. Togo ni Benin ain't 100%. We can't afford to say we are going into a major election, and a historical election where NPP is trying to break the 8. NDC is trying to retain the 8 and resume the 8 and return the former president back to office. You cannot take the and see the own to me I see you but maybe Professor justice must be manifestly and profusely done. It must be done. Yes, judges, any lawyer, Judicial, no. The ordinary people, lawyers. So, ordinary lawyers. So, any law, judges. Law, ordinary everyday people. And you say, ordinary people and Timrana say, no, I'm saying GDN want to source them Juma. You have a problem. And even for the judiciary, because history na Ghana, you want yet Ghana, hey, President Rawlings time. Tata man, AFRC, no. You who judges the actual Makoshe Bundasi, you die almost. So for that history, the judiciary should be cautious of the image, of the perception that people have of them. Say justice must not just be done, it must be seen. And yes, you can before cry parachiki for no. or mobile say a justice must be manifestly done. No Bible I can see and so can ya and fetch a table as yes to the guy. Or see and so can ya and fetch a table as it. And see justice sumase. Yanya yandia some was sumasi, dear some were playing. Until around is the time now here fancy, not so Japonia kangaroo cotton. People wrote articles to the UN letters complaining you cannot do a kangaroo justice because I say sumasi from more beer who said justice here, Juma. Emrano said Yedima way, Nisa Nediama way, Namrani Yayu anymore. Check see away and I see a change justice. Yet you only kulendi, what being say you only kulendi. On what reason? If justice in the Obia Castle Betching, but some of these things, no, say the perception will be that Emrani Yedma, we must know why are you changing Yoni Kulendi? Why are you changing Yoni? For what reason? Justice now can't hear you or money now. Why? I guess upon is all way there. Omola judgment there, but not so much that can be a mayenti, but process I name Ranimu, Ekesi no, Wabomo, you American near Dina, or the cases I can say Supreme Court, he will help us to understand this issue. But election I come near crucial. Yeah, that's what Banner no. Now, Koyasem, because now no Crawford now, and 8 people have died. These are human beings, so and Crawford, Papa Crawford, man. We must know some running here, Juma. And Kisia Jabin the red letter, Mesaka, Kisia Jabin starting say, or investigation. In fact, one of the investigations at Kisia Jabin here, who said, and Crawford discarded Sikato Pepe normally. And I'm a report to Kisia Jabin, Office of Special Prosecutor. Or starting say or investigation now or teaching Crawford and Crawford way or my disca Sikarin Skakito or Pepe or Mokikan. According to Kisia Jabena Casa report or the buyer about let me look for copies of a report or our best okay. And the same Matiami do and you see Matiami do your papa penny there, but sometimes I'll say I don't know respectfully say too for don't be used. Yeah, Matiami more biakwa more yusu. And control letter, mo biasi a year first and Kisia Jabe. That Kisia Jabe by an teaching. I don't know beyond control letters here, you know. Why now? Say, see, I was starting investigation. What teaching particular people being a museum, you know, for what? The same one I'm confirm a Kisia Jabe by. But because Kisia Jabe is not playing ball, he's not shutting up, he's not keeping quiet, he's not doing the things that mo person yet. He's not folding his arms. Said about Momo back to the cases on prosecuting him. You want to remove Kisia Jabi? No. Justification na mode ba na. Modi position na Kisia Jabi na let him stay there. That justification has not changed. Reason amoma ya modi Kisia Jabi ba the same reason is there. Leave him there. Don't change him. Why do you want to change Kisia Jabi now? Why do you want to change him? See, this is a letter. Omo chokoma Kisia Jabi. But before that, this is a report that Kisia Jabi now. This is the last report. Office of Special Prosecutor, Controller and Accountant General Department report on investigations of Government of Ghana Payroll Administration. Government of Ghana Payroll. Yeah, the gum or my disca or people di. When report when Kisia Jabi kwaya when yasem 2024 May 20th and report or yeah report May 20th and Kisia Jabi report. Mama ye unsenya report 20 na mo pam Kisia Jabi no. Why do you want to get rid of him? Why do you want to get rid of him? The first paragraph of the report is saying the Office of the Special Prosecutor OSP and the Controller Accountant General's Department present this report on investigation into government payroll administration. This report has been substantially abridged by the reduction of the identities and activities of persons suspected to be implicated in corruption and corruption-related offenses in respect of government payroll administration. This is the first paragraph. Kisia Jabi comes, you want to say diska, you identify and in a report to a crown. I'm so abductivity. Dinibia, body assume say diska where this way. There's a main report today, so this is the abridged version. I see November 2023. Try November yo. That don't Kisia Jabi no problem. November yo starting and I'm no problem. In November 2023, after several weeks of consultation and engagement, the OSP and the Controller and Accountant General Department jointly commenced corruption risk assessment and investigation into suspected corruption and corruption-related offenses in the respect of Government of Ghana Payroll Administration. I mean, Jampo try to find this now. I said about because this is exactly made the arm of the beliefs and one of the observation one. He said, "I've been office. Say, OSP has observed that the payroll system in the northern region covering the educational institutions and the Ghana Education Service and the Tamale Teaching Hospital is attended to by an alarming number of unauthorized and inactive validation. Indeed, most of the management units were found to be validating persons through the use of unauthorized and inactive validation credentials. That is to say, the credentials of disease retired validators were being actively used, and in the validating process, in conform retirement in validation or salary nisikedi or pepe and yes, now to me say there are people behind them and omoji says AD or say it was also observed that transferred and released staff were being validated by their previous management units, creating a clear danger of unattended active or continuous engagement by the respective institutions too. It was observed that some schools had no management unit to validate staff, and the persons affiliated with the schools were in order being validated by their previous affiliated organizations. 4.4 say, in the absence, in one instance, it was discovered that one of the schools in the Kumbungu district of the Ghana Education Service school any existence. The school that wow, what a wow. OSP school no quite and some school. Yeah, they are shame edges Kennedy. Or say does not exist at all. Two or say yet this non-existence contrived entity was represented as staff and purported staff no through monthly validated and paid services to busumi bia omujiska. You see, and coming under MPP government, this is very a key, because this is the same MPP Mukaka NDC MPs DB the double salaries basically na kabashima na 1 hour case here future 1 hour case here conclusion what abi ninyaka wake NDC MPs ekome ni na double salaries kabashima na 1 hour conclusion of the 1 hour prosecution kabashima na ni conclusion of the case. See, so under the same government these institutions omushemuno omudin samafo omudin kofo makọ retirement omudin kofo bi omunye for crash no moji salary nye 1 month and 2 months. It is a consistent thing. Afena Office of Special Prosecutor we hu ni nyina we so maje on regular basis. Or see government payroll system, they were doing it on regular basis. Furthermore, some head teachers, any heads of unity media validating persons whose whereabouts are unknown. Egregiously, some validators were even validating persons who were to the knowledge of the validators disease. Mama who cry validate. Or just say, I'm very low. Validate you. I'm going himself for no the vim. No validate you. No salary. No moody. Just say a system to me. Special prosecutor. So I hear calculation investigation in the way. You know. But told just say out of the sampled high where one region pro and it's some person who papa no free because one region penny into the margin so the babno or the bar half or the bob water or the bar easting central greater carriage and you say multiply sika way by 16 16 regions, so multiply PPP way by 16 now who sika kra according to for both momodi. And so he concludes by saying that or saying out of the sampled high risk member a number of 1,265 persons presented on the payroll, the Joint Investigation and Assessment Committee declared only 1,020. 1,020. Meanwhile, a Diomokoto Yakwa 1,265. In 120, if you manage to say we have about 265 women for Bogum. Nina Majiscan consistently. Again, the report says that persons who regularly were validated, or said the special prosecutor promptly unfroze the blocked salaries of the verified regularly validated persons upon the timeous clearance by the joint team. It's one more the validate and retirees no special prosecutors were down salaries or more music and some of no they were free no way and alcofa kiseja be ho asema no we any other political cases any idea they are thinking say kiseja be we chant me what this is kiseja be but no be asking Gabi Nipa. So how did somebody who was believed to be Gabi Nipa, now that he's doing the exact work that you this is the reason why you employed him. Waiting the whole Ghana, he said I've been back now for so a small boy. Now small boy the one who bet me I bet you no say Me my child here 15 years. More white boy. Yeah, the law na here juma. So now the person is enforcing the law. We say yeah, pamono. Now, Martiami, do you allowing yourself to be used? So what your letter they are coming president? President so forwarded letter now come CJ say they should decide whether there's a prima facie question to be answered. It's here, you know. Hey, say no. Yeah, never. He works for the people of Ghana. We will never allow it. More appointing, but more appointing on behalf of the people of Ghana. The power of appointing Kisejabe, young Ghana for voted near the mamo. We will never allow anybody to sack Kisejabe. Embasso, Nembasso. CJ, shut me and CJ, the mamma, respectfully. There is no prima facie case. There is no question to be asked, no legal question, no legal issue here. There is no legal issue. Kisejabe is doing exactly what he was appointed to do. The only claim is say investigators say if there's a legal issue, a legal question, a prima facie case to be answered, he's doing exactly what he was employed to do. Yeah, you be a my Matiamidu, Mube Kisejabe, one number, yes, number Babana. Yes, I'm not changing number of fans on Betchenko for. One number of fans on Betchenko for. The gentleman is doing exactly why he was employed. And he's a worker for the public, for the people of Ghana. Legal technicalities, NPP, the lawyers in quantity, technicalities more than yes, you will not remove anybody. You will not remove Kisejabe neck, Kisejabe chana. Come on, dear Bessie. Come on, December 7, no crime tomorrow. Man, December 7, no crime tomorrow. The guy is doing his work. Let him work. You are better than Kisejabe can so you be kokota. Kisejabe cannot jail anybody. He cannot prosecute anybody. Or the local court. And the court to decide whether the person has been proven guilty, this a criminal case beyond reasonable doubt. What is your wahala? What is your fear? What is your wahala? Oh, because all these things you are doing is showing like you have something to hide. What do you have to hide? So you don't need anything to hide there. Why are you chasing Kisejabe? Chasing him. Why? Chasing him out of office. But tell me, do you almost end this one yet? Then yet I say, fine, on also I'll pekasa. Bibia no or back show letters. Matiami do chinkrofon to me. Kisejabe is doing what Matiamidu could not do. He is doing what Matiamidu could not do. Matiamidu coin and my office in Konya no corner their issue. But he said that in Konya or not in Konya, he is arresting. What do you want? Uncle to have him. Uncle, me said there will be nobody will support any agenda to remove Kisejabe. Yeah, fighting corruption, one house, you shall protect the public purse. And one way, he's doing what you could not do. Kisejabe is doing what you, or man penny is settling another. He is doing what you could not do. And you man, what you say? That is why we're pointing go for no. Power near the man are pointing go for. He told himself, "Oh no, to me, go watchman coaches go for so mudiska." And our pony our power ni bidiama age. And the power and our pony won't kaka no diama Kisejabe. So why are you chasing him? It's a president. I'm very disappointed in you that you forwarded the letter to the CJ. You forwarded the petition to the CJ. Why? Forwarding what to what? Because president, wow, we are senior, my lord Nanado. Because your president Abedi am Nanado coach Supreme Court judge qualification mo. In fact, quite a cabana what do retirement? What the Supreme Court grammar? What do we and Supreme Court be HBB or one Supreme Court judge? It will read a letter, no, and I hear at Santibedio to a senior lawyer. Who read letter? Wow, letter, who for their common CJ prima facie case be wo. Send him one and person more time Kisejabe. Where is the prima facie question? Where is the legal question? Amuko busa CJ no. Where is the legal issue? Amuko busa CJ. Allow Kisejabe to work. 6 months na kamunya moduma. NDC ba Kisejabe will remain in office. He will do his work. NDC ba will still not support any agenda to remove Kisejabe. We will not support any agenda to remove Kisejabe today. NDC ba will not support any agenda to remove Kisejabe. Kisejabe ne obechi ni acheno. Let the court adjudicate the matter. Let the court decide on who is guilty and who is not. In a court of competent jurisdiction, the law is working. Let the law work. What's your plan, man? We are only 2 years more chasing. letter kwabrane we are going to and more ferry. You have not been able to successfully prosecute one corruption case. One opening case, the case is still pending. Come on, evidence, Papa, be to be prosecuting. You are still answering questions and crawling in court. He said that be half of the work come out to even make you, the government, look good. Make you look good. So I will fight corruption. I will call permanent. Oh, permanent said then. Or till the school here, or till they go on China. He didn't ask for this appointment. Now you want to chase him. We will not allow anything. We will not allow anything. He said that the last letter not showing 20th May, no prepare report. And the last thing that he said, Professor Sari had to say, Prof, remember good evening here, because Prof na ye aprachiki nankasa or no, senior activist, senior patriot, broach any other place here, shut that one crofwa. Or Mamuko law school, be practice your manson one watching. And your manson for no manson or chairman, mine ye. No mining system, then the structures now working. Ghana Kwan, I say a chim for a payment, so payment, so justice no more pay. Ya chim for the status de almost use in Kofa. Can any cases be a one more shoe and no beer. First, I say a chim for no beer from North Bessia Probias law nibi. Because it's a now to problem. Good evening, Kwaba.
Good evening, if you are to say
Adam Bajoto.
Yes, Adam. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, but election but me special prosecutor. I say let me have your take on when we let her know mature command say say if there's a primary case near fair no so. She said I think Charlotte said and that was the same process me boy.
Na no say ye bon komosa no or say ye hwemra no ansa na said yakase we are saying na we nye say and so on. So share special prosecutor mranwa Emma Ghana Nibia to me. So obetima throw petition. Edia Koma president said, okay. President, a sign say A, B, C, ana add the reasons in Tino. Special prosecutor no, ye remove no.
Okay.
Say sa letter no, echo president hoa. Or no president no, or ye mailman. Say ubia or ye post office. Ya post letter, ye di amano. Only to me be say obe pese mu.
Okay, so you can want to mean point kind. Okay. Okay.
Intino letter no can in sape no also forward ekoma Chief Justice. Chief Justice no so no say you forward the manual or the president has 1 week to forward it to the Chief Justice, and then the Chief Justice has to determine say case here idea bremi on first impressions. The new friend the prima facie case no me share case ni first impressions bibi wo muntia or say ye toaso ana case we de nyansa bi anim inti yambon tontwene inti no yentimi 40 president say wa ye ne
okay very well
on po oso de ko inti no o say ye ma atiefo no
atie onye boni bia so de akoma CJ
bi wan fa nko a na wa ye boni
okay
wan fa nko a na wa ye boni
okay
inti no o say ye bisa se petition no ankasa no a ye atro no a president a forward no nyansa wo mu ana na ye ja president ni film because anya ono ne
anya na asem okay
inti o say ye dan ye ni kotu
na ebedu president wa can the president say that onje
daddy and na make us oye mailman or to say mailbox unamwa now the post your friend is a letter 2 na djuma ni say obebie letter damu pe no the American Justice your man 1 week one fan kwa on president
okay
you efi ho inti no na djuma no wa ye no prekope no na yaka anya say ye president na sema na ye president na sema na ye but ye camera no or say ye camera no pefe se ne obia beti.
According to special prosecutor law, the president here he has followed the letter.
He has followed the letter as he should, and we should praise him for following the letter.
Okay.
Who praise the president from following the letter? It doesn't mean you support the petition. So you have to evaluate the petition and kasa.
Okay.
So why the petition by? In this case, no petition no Matiambidu and the buy. Now the money interesting is Matiambidu no a former special prosecutor. In fact, he was the first special prosecutor. Into most people will say, who former special prosecutor crowd, I was saying a special prosecutor and somebody and say do because when your chance no and went to me and yeah, human what Johnny I fear human ho and the idea will be for into no wisdom be our saying transfer money pan. Now before you evaluate Martin Amidu petition, you have to go back as far as November 2015. So, as far back as November 2015, there was a big fight in the media between Matiamidu and Kisi Ajabe relating to the Anas investigation of judges. Your friend is saying Matiamidu can be say government in the use Anas to trap judges and so on and so forth. Emma Kisi Ajabe so because Adena who distract your man for evidence that whole person who attack evidence not just start side shows. Matiamidu has had a long fight with Kisi Ajabe, and that's what in my mind is driving this
one. Okay.
Because Osha petition now what run say Matiamidu your penny in Kasa or penny, but and the so there now I can petition no can ya say be say na enipa na what na say a petition we no aden na enipa no bibi ye no ana. Number one petition ba ko kan ni say oko special prosecutor ho oko e no or the pen drive e command special prosecutor no and o catch special prosecutor say special prosecutor me per se obia wa man appointment no for an appointment letter to me pen drive no so. Now number two, the salary in the terms of service no for pen drive no na for me. A special prosecutor obi appointment letter in the salary. Farmer was saying me fan to pen drive me to me farmer. And no any special prosecutors Amidu say special prosecutor and fast information and to pen drive to into yenyi infinite mum. Again no. Kwabena ye create as such as say you want right to write things no into your tron ya man keke. Number two, or say special prosecutor no or high amount for amanabe adwuma was OSP no office of special prosecutor no wako high amount for ni be from sister agencies like Yoko ni police ni into no yenyina di
Nanya one of them employing for even of them
employing for Togo, Nigeria, UK, and employ Ghana for, and he puts it out there. If people feel the OSP gives them better opportunities and so on, they apply. He hires them. By doing that. Number three, or see OSP no, a press conference. Na press conference now, wa criticizing judiciary. Into because what criticizing judiciary no, into yenyi Hey, Ghana, and then they all criticizing judiciary. Yetimi wedi.
Now, ono Matiamidu, you are only chief critic of the judiciary. Ono Matiamidu na kasa.
When we were in Legon fighting the PNDC because we wanted to have the mouth to criticize, no, and we have been given the opportunity to criticize, no. After we have come back to square one. SC YMUOBAD because we are criticizing. I'm not saying whether Kisi Ajabe criticizing and now on criticizing. That's not the point. But let's assume say or criticizing. Into criticizing judiciary and now then. In fact, or 2 days ago, me posti BB old Chief Justice Redu. Onoka say because of mounting criticisms. He's changed policy because Otiasie said judiciary has to be responsive. Judiciary no Ghana for dia. They have to make changes if the changes are in the best interest of the country. Intino OSP na assembly there. Matiamidu and no Mr. board and now problem be with Kisi and now whatever it is and now what throw the petition.
And the prof, they are not me can say earlier me reading letter be from OSP investigation be away. And there was speculation that a part of the entire Matiamidu mo letters in ban we su kan ho. You are saying say unji say we no can report we ni corruption one cover and come.
Speculation, because anytime you speculate, then you are creating problems. I look at the things, I look at the facts, and then I address the facts.
Okay.
We are wrong, I make us say you're wrong. We are make papa, we are wrong, I make us say you're wrong. Me true. But I won't speculate and say things I mean evidence to back. What did I make an say? I mean
was source from inside, and that's where I got report
because who source now inside? Me, I don't have access to that source.
Okay.
And if that source strongly believes, say, assembly, he should come out and say it. Because I mean, Penny say, who say wrong is being done, then we share suma say, then I will come bathroom, now will come bokele will I say, but Emma yen solve problem. I don't like this type of people. Until I mean, you know me, you know where I stand, no lies, nothing. I know where I stand. If you agree, fine. If you don't agree, fine. But at least you know, say, maybe I stand on this, and these are the reasons. That's the way I want us to view things and do things.
Okay.
What we can say about the petition is Chief Justice, very, very quickly, on Manin Chekra on this list, there's no prima facie case. And then we move on. That's how this should be resolved very, very quickly.
More wasting time, crowd.
Time, say, because the pen drive about Manfa Dianto, so because the Chief Justice no wasting 30 minutes on this crowd, because me who say on you're very busy. But we are busy now, petitioner. You see, on the face of the thing, prima facie, on first impressions, okay. Adewe ninyina a true cross one mouth names and 2 pen drives so a true say we criticize the judiciary a true say we high where a misconduct the answer is no. Case dismissed. That's how this should be evaluated.
Okay. But Prof, so we can say okay, Prof, go your point answer.
Then the second one is to go back to ghost workers findings na bano. And no, since many fear every time auditor report or why we found ghosts here into me ghosts as crime and pessimity. What I want to hear and say, why no more and the ghost no a share payroll.
Exactly.
You don't want to court, you prosecute, you don't want to share jail 10 years, 20 years. Woma sida ya di dan afi mo woma toka ya di we kan afi mo and no na me interested na you say you find ghost there me wa tiabre into no me tia me you na into then what is the next step so into the next step one say woma blanking names you woma redacting names
sir
names no na me pay then what are we going to do to those people one more bo a mine and one more or say you direct your attention to a prosecutor in a court of competent jurisdiction quickly in time. Not only are you going to jail, but benefit be when you're from that, yeah, Jeff you. And then now they car now they why you're in addition to going to jail. Say yes, sir, 2 or 3 times, but who say Obi Abesru. But say a true report today, report the Ghana for the idea almost running report. Auditor General reporter. Then Obi say as nothing happens. Into reporting there and cash in my books.
Into when the best thing I can say in the office to be and so that we know. Nipa come on this can over there because I'm not tracking over years.
Yes. Yes, body nobody know. Like I said, charges are me bo munye. Ebi am investigating we. So I don't know. But until I see the names of the perpetrators and charges against them in the court, me koso cigar because a report in the actual and
Okay.
my kind be a bread me ghost workers me kind yenye.
Me intel I mean from inside hono chese almost started report on one cover this first one now. Omo hu se nkofo discount mu freezing nkofo account no na tables no start say check say what there yeah mount na ho nche because I from me intel I mean but probably moving on to the other
Final point is we know say you the brand eduma untimi nko yi OSP no emfi okeke. No, you can't do that. You have to follow a process, and the process no has to be transparent. And there are a lot of people who are interested in what is going on, and so it will be very, very, very difficult to remove someone on your bonibia.
Exactly.
You know, I have no fear. 1 minute, special prosecutor, no, special prosecutor nephew. Because the moment they try that, no, the problems will be better.
But Prof, what do you think about so far special prosecution better now, Kunya, so especially under MPP are buying one of the special prosecutor we buy. Matiami do one of them buy in terms of fighting corruption, or I are fighting. See now that I'm president say I shall protect the public first. You're fighting.
But yeah, Emra, ye creative office, no, ya me I say that you're appointing Matiami do no more Accra, na me taxi driver, Uber driver. And I won't bore Matiami Uber driver, and then I'm say, now I don't know when you just house. Oh, Matiami do bet you be and I'm say Matiami do no. Or yeah, Attorney General, and if I not share. Or say, hey, what's what beside you? Into media, me no say you be Ghana for your entertaining mukeke. Most Ghana for you easily excited. Into you be then they find out say there's nothing. Look, there is a director of public prosecutions already in place, and the director of public prosecutions, no, or he should be independent of the Attorney General. Attorney General should formulate policy. But when it comes to prosecution, criminal prosecution is the job of the Director of Public Prosecution, and his activities should be insulated from the control of the Attorney General. Similarly, no, when it comes to civil prosecutions, it's the job of the Solicitor General, and the Solicitor General should do his job, and the Attorney General should not interfere with that. So,
but within the Attorney General office, now, a Director of Prosecution here, or independence.
Oh yes. In fact, you know, the only person we knew for prosecution was not the Attorney General. Jekedako. He was the Director of Public Prosecution. Nobody even knew the Attorney General. Now, committee crime be my Jekedako so. Who say yes or yenejuma. I accept the facts that over the years, Director of Public Prosecution is so weak, sir. People think way. But unless we solve that fundamental problem, creating another bureaucracy, is just going to create another problem, because the problem is Obima, Director of Public Prosecution in Yenejuma. And so if you go and create another way, that same threat will go there. So solve that threat. But be as it may, no, say they special prosecutor. So let's try and make it work.
Okay.
And all of us have to be.
But Rob, do you think that there's an intention to see a Bema office now? Because a lot of people are saying say cosmetics. Our office no more cosmetic. There was no proper dedication and intention to say fight corruption. But any BB never representing BB.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because and I can say, even if we wanted to fight corruption, there will be no need to create another office. Into this other office, you create here Ghana 4 boy and some keke. But nobody seriously thought, say, me create a special prosecutor. I'm a president, I'm a corrupt or Baba Trim. If you creating you face a opposition for no, and now more teacher for now be out, but mono the giant, then there's problem. Okay. So the problem is the executive and pese obia ebisa more questions, and unless we solve that problem, all other things are agrobia yedi. In the US, we don't have like a special prosecutor be one person, by be a executive, be a Joe Biden as president, ne back or bibi no bibi ne feel say it has to be investigated. Then they actually set up a special prosecutor to do that. And once he's done, because the moment you create a bureaucracy, then you are going to import all the problems of bureaucracy to that bureaucracy. If you are not careful.
Now some double bureaucracy.
Now that's precisely.
But Mami Musa generally about under Fourth Republic. What they emphasize? Nana Dubai, on time soon 8 years. So far, some more catches will be protected public person. Who shall say more protected?
Because the way politics no. Who the years to back around to me, because I'm out for after politics, they say a investment. A binimu di sika gum. Send your winia, you be recoup your sika. One more money sika, one di sweat. Ube huna me cost na me bathroom. Why? Because ubeman bibi. A binimu at the crante, chicha man for mucha photos. Once mako kuobi, mako chobi sika. Into also ba. All these people are on the crante chobi, sika shemo and so on. They are all on your way. Say, chale mami bibi. Into who know stronger. Be devour. Into no say me share say obi be serious. So be president. I look at the people surrounding him. One surrounding who with people I face genuine. Because the people surrounding you will bring you down. In Ghana, no, that's the way it is. So share Kwame Nkrumah. The people surrounding Kwame Nkrumah do say no money. Woman now bringing it down. So share all of I mean, we food soldiers, cadets, young pioneer. All of those people are not in it because they want to move the country forward. They are in it because they want to enrich themselves. And if you don't get rid of cancer,
do you see some of those people around him?
Oh, look, every Obia or Ghana ha and Mobia 4 years or 8 years ago, no ni capre. And or mansions and cars and O2 say Oshe na baduma or ya. There's no way say Nkobit Manyasa. But Obianti but in the bathroom, and what catch what if you was see, hey, we all know that. But we are all cowards. Nobody can come out and say, hey, then out to me. And even the special prosecutor should be able to go around and say, "Wono, then uba and say, what you may see, what you may weigh assets I'll declare wine, and based on assets I'll declare new income. Then what you mean all these things that you have.
In this case, you would have preferred special prosecutor be particular cases as and when they see no. And go on here to say okay, general auditing by now or then. I said because public any access to asset declaration form no.
Yes,
but he can get access to it, right?
He can get access to it, and that's what if he cannot, then the law should be strengthened so that he can send your bit get access to the asset declaration and reconcile the items stated on the asset declaration to your current assets. Otherwise, they are growing the gymnasium, gymnastics.
Now, like you're saying, next time, even if I buy for a bar, because of these weak systems here, we can't fight corruption. President before time now, corruption, they say Adam.
Even before President Busi Atama, Justice Ani report, he wrote a report on corruption, and Obisa said corruption or Ghana for DNA one. That was in the 70s. If you go and read, call back to Nkrumah, Jibowu Commission. The corruption has been here. The problem with corruption is that people go into government not to expand the public welfare, but to increase their own personal welfare. That's the number one reason. I used to be interested in politics, but because I knew that the people are in politics for the wrong reasons. And as long as people are in politics for the wrong reasons, then we are going to have problems. Okay. So you mentioned South Korea, you mentioned Singapore, and you start here, now we're far ahead of them. But their leaders have figured out, say, public service, it is to offer service, not to enrich yourself. So those countries now acquire corruption. In 10 now, you
and I say South Korea businesswoman because I'm almost interested in them.
So Obia call public service to serve, and that is why Womatimi Akom and Matumpon na de be an reverse, because you need genuine people. And Sabe, I mean, me person and me pick you on people, but let me just give an example. Even a software cry and share when you because Adena wo yes say a software no crano uko yes kanwa na ukomani bia obeje. Nananom ahemfo no o se wo protect enyina no so bisa hey na nsen ye no e de na unya sika no nanano ebeye party invite you am of in Kwakrafort ho a obeka che Kwakrafort say wo sorry
na wotina say
because una wako wi sika. We have to start questioning people's source of wealth. And when we do that now, then you can see some changes. Okay. But as long as Yaya is entertainment, we no abek got the opetre now we have and you are growing the edike.
Councilman, my problem if I don't call a year or the same judiciary corruption Kenya also has to do with cases court. For ordinary Ghana for a wabon take the bobo case court. A baby bed your hands and away Shana saying cases do election petition the bones kakrana ye case. But especially in say case here any changes or more judiciary, there's a perception be say after Ghana they no cry juma just say a year juma maybe more and year juma maybe more. It depends on bank or and sana when you attend and when you justice. What do you say about said so far rule of law need justice delivery a year juma or Ghana?
Yeah, I mean without a strong judiciary, rule of law into mean judgment, because ultimately say obi esisiwa. The court is where you go, and the court should also do the assembly in temtem. So Oko BBC UK as early as the 11th century, 1086, and William the Conqueror or throw BB a friend Doomsday Book, and sad Doomsday Book as a CBI England and Wales, one surveyed it to her. Taxi. 1086, 11th century. And I'm sorry. That Ghana dem news. Yeah, na no you a pito no we have now survey the day. The day. When you agree you pito no in some 4 hours. But he realized landowner be assault me taxo. And the way he can do that is if he has records, and because of the records, so be who if you did the land so be anywhere obetima befa because survey you will never be able to get access to it to go and manipulate it. But Ghana and every huna or asasi bi wo na land guard abefa na wakokun obi. I mean,
why would they kaswa dey yakum a whole soldier? Uniform yakunu.
How can't we solve such a simple problem of just surveying everything in Ghana, knowing who the owners are, and then making sure nobody can have access to it unless he is a grantee from a bona fide grantor. That means Nipano Enidia and our transfer and we transfer so closing MOBA who say, I mean, you give notice, you publish it in the Gazette. So there's no Kululu. And now call Lands Commissioner, okay, so be found in Shebi more Beshebu says here, 500 cities obey. So we don't.
So, bro, question goes back to question now. And also question say, when our laws pneumonia there, what is the problem? Because the last time I checked, now World Bank for MI is land administration project. Ghana for for land lab 1, lab 2, lab 3. I think they say it was a lab 5 or so. Then so you solve a problem. We are there Kaswa is now in terms of assassinating langas. No, Kaswani environs is the hotspot now.
When you're courageous people are more interested in moving the country forward. Now the wrong people, there will be your politics in that show. They're just going to continue the thing. That's why I gave the example of South Korea and Singapore, because their difference was women leaders now, women Lee Kuan Yew. Lee Kuan Yew say, I'm not yet electing as president in Singapore or Ghana. And if you read his book From Third World to First World, also about Ghana, not only Probody said at that time was Minister of Interior. On any meeting, Probody said, "Oh, young Connie disco now called show the time or in the book. No, I was like, how long was Ghana there?
Serious.
That should be written off because you are two developing countries. I'm a bank, more about agriculture, industrialization, things that will benefit the population." You are talking about disco, any yacht be our autonomy nema. So these are the things. Say, who create a land commission or whatever it is. Now you don't put the right people there, but you just go and put somebody there because of loyalty and so on. Nipano you want to say Nipano or favor and crop. Then you are going backwards because nothing will work.
So, Prof, if it's about say I did the right people back to the right officer, why haven't we been able to solve that? Because basically, some problem in case is a cocotte delay. I have more.
So because
why is nobody solving our problem? No?
Because of the political system. Political system, let me explain it. I will say, your politics now. Ebi kunkum nipa emao. Ebi mausika. Ebi door to door mao. Into also ba. Door to door for no, and our face also were pointing on whether or not they know what they are doing. Whereas in other countries, no, even if you help, no, you just help. I mean, with US, I always give money to politicians, and even in Ghana, I do. But Nansema Jai Ghana there because I find out say, I'm not giving the money because I want anything, but I feel say okay, because the better off all of us are no a peace of mind. Because then everybody leaves everybody alone. But where the chronic few people then you have to help everybody because then you are not solving the real problem. The problem is we don't put the right people in these places. And the people who appointment depend on writing off say nothing will happen because that and now on yes brave, on yes strong, and so on. So for instance, if you have the justice system as an example, but you go and put in Chief Justice a bit more manipulating because now you have weakened the judiciary. And in any democracy, we have what we call the institutional buffers. These institutional buffers, we're making sure that democracy is working. Independent judiciary, independent security service, independent electoral commission, independent ombudsman, the friend is Shraj. And these places, including the public service, when you politicize them, then nothing is going to work.
Okay.
Because political entities, they don't operate in the interest of the general welfare. They operate in the interest of one more. But
Prof, on that note, judiciary was a CA. I know that we have come far from a certain point. Independent there. You bet me after baby the SSC judiciary independent.
And yet there were too many problems because
like what?
Like the first big one here, the way we even if you take the Supreme Court now, most countries one Supreme Court, and that Supreme Court, one members one take assembly in Kenya, in South Africa, in the US, in Nigeria, everywhere. There's no panel system. Assemble the whole Supreme Court echo transfer into when they
the Supreme Court judge is only 15 and number case so.
Yes, but one more money here be I just 7, 9. Okay. But when you now track cases, so when they speak at what the Supreme Court has spoken, yeah, we are creating panel system. It has some advantages because at any point in time you can have more panels sitting. But the panel, the way the members are chosen, nobody knows. And we have been talking about this many years. And like I said, Chief Justice Redu, for instance, okay, from now on, every judge but 2 better constitutional cases. So, and the reason Oja 2 is if there's a reviewer, then they can be added. But everyone who was a member of the Supreme Court sat on constitutional cases. And then you don't know how these panels are chosen. And the worst abuse that I've seen was the recent case. The Chief Justice removed 3 members of a panel and added 3 members.
And there is anything.
Ose.
There is anything no you 3 members.
What my reason? Be announced me a Chief Justice intimate my. And I'm saying what? I know. Is it related to a Punimu case now? Punimu case in American. So, and I'm like, how can you do that, sir? Because power means ubetimi I recompose panel. No, I mean, and the panel no, you're only a 5. It will you 3. What if those 3 were the ones who were going to vote for one side, and there were you to replace them with another 3 who would vote for another side? And
this changes here, Prof. In the middle of case, no question. In
the middle of the case, in California, I call some proud, meeting with the Supreme Court. And my Supreme Court, I say, Montromo submissions, address, and then come in May, to come and get the judgment. Those of us who go to court, we know how each judge wants their arguments to be made. It will share panel, then you make your arguments. Then on the day that you go for judgment, there's a completely new panel. That will surprise you, because if I knew this guy was coming, my arguments would have been a little different. So you should nobody should ever do that. I mean, everyone say even the Chief Justice can think something like that makes sense or makes the judiciary look good. We are Sanwa. Even if you don't have any ulterior motives, the only conclusion people can come to is, well, you have an ulterior motive. If you don't have an ulterior motive, why are you not telling us the reason for the change?
And Prof, it's a change. Is it in respect of a Punimu case? No, all other cases as I had 3 judges we was in I
mean, all I know is the Puni case. I don't know what else is going on. But this is what I'm saying is sometimes that maybe that's why Obi said nobody will ever appoint me. Because me a member of the Supreme Court. Now me will case so now ukase obey me. There will be a war in the Supreme Court. Because me only made that. Because I'm a member of the Supreme Court. You are a member of the Supreme Court. You are the chief, fine. But you are what we call first among equals. Honor primus inter pares. Just say, you're not equal, but your mouth respect be as the chief. You are also the chief. Every Chief Justice plays 3 roles. Number 1, he plays the role of a legal educator. And that's why he's the chairman of the General Legal Council.
Okay.
Because that's for education and all that kind of thing. Number 2, or your administrator. Or draw judiciary in the budget, decide this yenko see court we were securia so yamfa being called bombing Chief Justice court in your part of a because my into administrative work. In that administrative work, nobody on the court, Supreme Court, has any power over her. And then 3rd, he's a judge. Judge, can say asamaba on the when she sits on a case, she's just one person. Everybody has the same number of votes. They talk, then they vote. She can be in the minority, she can be in the majority, and so on. But in the court role, that's where her power is at the weakest. Because if we are going to use this panel process now, Makase and artificial intelligence software, you bet me all the judges then you actual little program say, okay, if you way schedule, way expertise, and so on. Now, machine and a panel no into a nipankasa is not
involved. Okay.
Involved. Okay. That one, everybody can say, okay, you know, lottery being a makoshia sawi. But the nipa koshia hona nipa ni say a fear case about oh mami fa kwakwaza anko tusu. Obi anu say kwakwaza pe a fiasem. Then that's a problem.
But Prof, I want to say when you see and Chrem the entire you Kulandi, Justice Kulandi Mufi opening case into the but what do you think is the reason? And I normal say in the middle of cases, you have to meet changing. I don't say in the middle of cases, you have to meet changing panel. So what is the interest? What do you think is the interest in this one?
I have no idea. And as you know, my yet several cases, speaker case, dual citizenship case, constitutional review, and so on, never in a panel now, but they start here and you change, you know, never and see that because a young can make shock. Say, what is going on? The only reason somebody in the panel may drop out because they be a then you can give a reason. So this person is sick and so on. So we have had to replace them, or some conflict of interest. Biba, not the person who say, company now you didn't say no. Send me was stock be but now mutual funds. I didn't know. Now that I check my mutual fund, I saw that I have an interest. So I'm dropping out of the case. Those are the only recusal, if any recusal. And no crown and Nipan Ankasa and the recusal or in one film. And as a Chief Justice never say he's a headmaster. Bra me office, me UFI cases. No, if it's a joke, then it's a joke. If we are doing that, then it's a big joke. It will never happen. And so if the Chief Justice wants to restore public confidence on reverses our decision, now my original panel, no, I mean, I'm not interested in the outcome one way or the other, but I'm interested in the process. The process has to be fair.
Yeah.
And yes, sir, the results, but people won't respect the results.
But Prof, opening case Nankata, what do you think? And say, I don't know one case, claim say malfeasance. Aban sika bi akodi baby eni seko na case no kwa che saami wa there out senkofo bebe kan obi akowi abanchi. In fact, there's a recent case a beji din na me read court decision no kra small boy bi a we SHS akowi a emo ene froye robbery there because of the second authority in the teacher no akowi a mo froye phones ni ade ye jailing in 15 years. But a case like this I involve sika doso. The case no court so how do you explain a way to a nipa or tincha say justice is actually working in Ghana? Because baby again so a man the
yeah, I mean this is one of the issues in here fundamental reform. Okay, in many jurisdictions, no, what type of cases? She said, yes, election petition. Presidential election petition, then they will rule be said in the presidential election petition, it should be resolved from beginning to end in 42 days. And that's your budget. When you exceed that time budget, you have to explain. It shouldn't, seminar rules of court committee are 42 days, make 21 or even less. But at least there's a budget. So we have to do that for every conceivable type of case. Divorce case, it's 6 months. Criminal way bar 9 months. Way bar this. So there's a budget, and every judge has a dashboard. How many cases you have been assigned to, how old the cases are. So as your cases you resolve, then you can get a query. So then our cases a delay. The other problem we have, they said, the case for Ghana. At any point in time, ultimate jai case echo appeal. That is not a good process. Or say, mark case then when the case is done, you can appeal. Just make sure you have a record of all the errors that you think are happening, and then at the end of the case, you can file your appeal. So when there's a judgment, You can
file. You say the Ghana no final judgment. I bet say a final judgment and say na wait me appeal. Let's say the injunction and I be
one friend interlocutory appeal. Anytime there's a ruling by the High Court judge that you don't like, you can go to the Court of Appeal. And then when you go to the Court of Appeal and you don't like, you can go to the Supreme Court. So lawyer now when you can
delay cases. Okay.
Because you can just use this interlocutory appeal strategy and delay.
In Mukromo, America, this is a final judgment and appeal. You can't just stand up and
once the case goes to trial 2-3 weeks near you. Now you can go and appeal and so on and so forth. So that will be one way to solve the problem. But the current way, and now I can say, oh Papa, yes. Last time you said Obi wadi 80 or so opamocha omundi na sasi case ni na onwu ansa na wawu. Oh yeah. Octogenarian. So many of that. So many. It happens.
This is sad.
It happens all the time. But if you have a system with no controls, then that will happen. But when the case goes to trial now, it should take 6 months. This type of case should take 3 months. This type of case should take 9 months. Then we have a budget. Into Bia Yenejuma with a budget. Imagine, say.
But it appears, say, as a political case is no contempt. But only be political cases, no. It appears, say, to say, okay, election petition, political case, and you say, better than Tokwabenti, 45 day movie. Other cases, even parliamentary disputes, almost all my timelines for those ones. So they be who the Oko Parliament. Now, and also gap metal in the parliamentary process.
Yeah.
But I don't know, ordinary people there, the Banchira for Bidira for nobody even cares. Election petition. 2020 about 2 years. Nipa 8 to move and the cases are still pending.
Yeah, that
is petition committee.
That is too long. And if you another example would be Afoko case. Afoko has been on trial, I think, from 2016 or 20 whatever. 3 different trials. Jury. It's untidy, and we need to reform. There's something that is not right. The judicial system has to be reformed. Unfortunately, anytime that you say, reform judiciary, then people feel like, oh, you're attacking the judiciary, you shouldn't attack the judiciary, maybe. No, but how can the system progress if people cannot point out things that are wrong and so on? And then you have some people also, because, there be Chief Justice, reshuffle. How can you just sit there and say the Chief Justice can reshuffle? I mean, are you even listening to yourself? When you say, Chief Justice be there or so powerful, say he can move judges like pawns. So we have that type of problem, and because of that type of problem, it's very difficult to get broad consensus to reform the system. People, when they feel that the system benefits them, or at least they, sometimes people, it doesn't even benefit them, but they just feel like
they just show of power.
For instance, if you are talking about reforming the judiciary, it shouldn't affect foot soldiers or whatever, because the judiciary is not even political. So why are you supporting Enema Enye in the judiciary? Because and now can say Bibia Electoral Commission, then people feel like you are attacking the government. Electoral Commission is not the government. Remove yourself from the Electoral Commission. If the Electoral Commission is doing something, let people say it. And the judiciary, let people say it. Unfortunately, people tend to believe some more power than all the state institutions, a reflection. So if you attack the judiciary, then you're attacking them. If you attack Shrad, then you're 99% of the time when I'm talking about the judiciary or the electoral, I don't even have the government in mind, because I understand that has nothing to do with the executive or the legislature and so on. I understand how government works. But many people don't, and they just come and they talk something, and then after a while people give up, because one face said, even though you are trying to help, you are trying to help them, they are even fighting you.
Exactly. Prof, they make about elections so say about in a very, very friends critical elections to say about where die anyway. Say this slow motion case is be hanging say at 2 about last elections 8 years at and California justice. Go for who? Yabo ebi mutio. What does it mean for next election? Ya ka 6 months. Ami akom say. Would it not increase tension? Emang to kwan si more. Say ni obi ni obi nya asama ho ne me no be die na ya die ho.
Yeah.
He says he be kwa waste time or you know.
Yeah, in fact, I've said say normal justice system no a fairly amount for they create their own black market of justice. Into your land guard say a black market of justice because they feel like they can't get justice. So chieftaincy conflict. It's a failure of the justice system because the people in the localities no feel they can't get justice in the court system, so they create their own black market. And the same thing, if people feel like election disputes cannot be resolved, fairly, timely, and impartially, they would create their own black market, and that is a big problem because a lot of countries have collapsed because of that. And the justice system should always ensure its processes are very transparent. Look, the 2012 election petition, I was the first person to say yen televise it. Ma obian hubi. Because obian hubi no obiati asia. Then
it's true.
It's very difficult to because usu hubi. And now I'm glad they televised it, and that tradition continues. And I've also said, look, yes, this type of presidential petition in I'm out for because to them they are doing politics. Courts, don't listen to these things and stop all these contempt hearings and so on. So Samia Wukuni, John Nomo, baby, I was defending them. Atuguba was looking for me. He said, "Who is this guy talking? Blah blah blah." But it was the right thing to do. And so I did it.
But commentary now, we dangerous for even the level of confidence and judiciary.
I mean, it's almost like we assume you give me so much. Obika bibia, you're starting kunku. No, let's give ourselves some credit. A lot of TV, radio, 95% people just laugh and move on. People are not that, like primitive. Then all of a sudden, no. And we have to start understanding that merely because somebody is saying something, it's not an incitement to do anything.
Okay. And Prof, what we are caught into a general election, what should be your electoral commission? Already party for an NDC for there, I started pointing accusing fingers at them. And I only see a court to the electoral commission conduct near before election, during the election, after election. This is the major election. Prof, why West Africa here? Who is Burkina, Niger, Mali? How much sorry and Kamu Dia Congo, no almost anye omupomo no maka osa anye nti dia koso atwa eho ahye nyina enye better sa we munso ne yakọ elections. How should we manage it? Yeah, about electoral commission first. Yeah, security agencies so how omo dem ra be adwuma.
Number one, transparency. The electoral commission be bia obeye or money transparent, then ubi kraka say yasisi no people will know and yet true because what has gone on. Number two, sometimes I don't understand the entire electoral commission of feel also train election year and son So all of a sudden, this is May, the election is in December. Now he opens the voter registration amount for encore register. Then the people are saline. Whereas you've had so many years that people can just walk in leisurely and just register. That is a problem. That this type of summoning all of us to go and register, it has to stop. The registration process has to be ongoing, continuous registration. And number three, look, when people are registering now, my preference would be the NCCE, not the political parties, to be the one that help people to go to these registration centers, and the political parties can have their own observers, but there shouldn't be people there with cutlasses and so on. No, if you feel like somebody is registering who shouldn't register, don't confront the person. Just make a note of the person's name or registration details, and then later on go and file a complaint with the registration officer, and then that. So all that.
Electoral Commission, a party for one and modern governor. It is NDC and people. A party boys from Guta second under age.
That's what I'm making say. It should not be allowed. The Electoral Commission should not allow the parties to come and hijack the registration process, because you are.
Is the Electoral Commission allow more? I think the ones allowing them.
Your friend said the election is being supervised, or the registration is being supervised by the Electoral Commission, and the Electoral Commission makes the rules for who can come there, how far you can be, and so all the rules are made by the Electoral Commission in the form of a constitutional instrument.
Okay.
So you can say, I mean, one party member can come in there, but that party member cannot bring in this or that or that. The Electoral Commission can give those guys.
No, the Electoral Commission has done that. No party for
if there is a law, not obedience, then it's not a law, it's just a suggestion. Why a law? No, they are not a law. No, BNT. Call the police arrest them and go and put them in jail. I mean, we have to start understanding it's a law and your suggestion. Say, why a law? But it means then stop calling it a law. Law means a BABT, including the Electoral Commission itself. For instance, when we hear CI 128, CI 128, nature say Ghana is divided into 275 constituencies. When we list all the constituencies, December 6th, they should not have written a letter or a directive to people in SARS that don't go and vote, because you cannot change a law with a letter. You can only change a law with another law. So people, including the Electoral Commission themselves, they have to understand that a law is a law, cannot be changed because you don't like the law, because you are writing it. No. We have to be strong about that. Because the moment you allow all these politicians to come in there to the registration center, that's when you see all this fighting.
It is to say the rest of the days now, can the Electoral Commission? I don't know how the Electoral Commission is going to do that.
It's a little late, because I'm sure the rules allowed all these people to come there.
Yeah, I'm more agent
you can have an agent there, but limit the number of agents. Sometimes I also see too many policemen there. I don't know, why, because then it creates an atmosphere, and so on. I mean, when people see police, it increases the level of aggression, because you assume they've been sent there to bully you or something like that. Why is the police or maybe the soldiers there? That's in your mind, and so people react to that.
Mama, show video. I think it was picked from one of the polling stations. I know more air about.
Get inside, get inside. Please.
And the problem, this is just a simple voter registration. And I want
Can you imagine? I mean, it's so sad. So sad. All you are trying to do is to put your name on the country's voters register. And what the whole purpose of this is to show some force power, like, hey, so then what you are doing is you are suppressing the vote. So that's how people feel said election manipulation is only on the day of voting. But most of the election manipulation can occur before you vote, because when you see a picture like this, maybe Ghana na in Madi 18 and 19, na me mami who picture here, all mami can register that.
Let's just say, actually, no vote.
So, and there are many mothers like that. One who saw a picture, no, traffic na dream. But why should it?
It is it's deliberate to just to stop people from registering.
Show of force. Because when we show that we can deal with you, it chills ways. Sometimes they say one way to chill speech like Casa is to imprison one person. So we imprison one person. That one person now in prison, but you are signaling to other people, say, also Kasai Obetima. This is the problem you are creating when people see these things now. It discourages them from going to register.
But Prof, do you think say about a free, fair election December?
I hope so. I mean, elections, it has some problems here and there. But I'm more interested in the things that happen before. Because everyone who is qualified to register is allowed to register. There's no intimidation and so on and so forth. If that happens on the day of the voting, the political parties do a good job. And then there's also the CDDs and the Codios and so on. They monitor and so on. So there may be violence here and there. And that violence, we have to stop it. And the way you stop it is the previous violence that happened. By now, some people should have been in jail. But if you don't punish, if you don't hold anybody accountable, then how can people learn? So people get this message, say, last time, Krana, you come boo amount for no share happen. So this time there, instead of 8, 32. Because nothing would happen. That is one of the functions of a justice system, is to deter people from doing the wrong things, because they learn, say, hey, then it deters you. Then it emboldens you, empowers you. Because nothing would happen.
But do you think that the Omaya Kakana Electoral Commission will share the conduct of a party like NDC MPP? Over some conduct given the nano elections, 2020 elections.
When I look at the picture that you just showed me now, I'm worried, because this shouldn't happen. In 2024, we've been voting since 1950s. I mean, our first election was in 1954, and then we've been voting. We voted the referendum, union government, Kranwa. Now, Sebe, it was under a military government, because Achampong wanted us to do union government, and then we said no. So there was a referendum, and Kranwa Kunkum Nipa to say the last election you kum Nipa 8. Why should somebody die because he's going to vote, or why should somebody die because you are counting votes? It should never happen. So And here we are again, 2024. We are registering. Look at the number of police people there beating. Something happening, and I can't tell from the video what triggered what.
Hey, lady na no Gina channel no call register no be a protesting. So on free area hon to omo join
Aha, you see.
and
That's
Ghana
what,
ni no I'm so okay BBT ano or ye no. And now so start here and I say nkonya na eyi nyina ba mu no.
precisely. So that's where I gave the solution. Said you shouldn't be able to stop anyone from registering. So suspect say or you're underage and now on FISA or constituency no, you can just file a form, notice the person, the particulars, tell the electoral people there that you want to protest. Just fill the form and leave it there. That's all you should do. You shouldn't touch anybody. You should know. I mean, you have no power of policing, and so you shouldn't touch or stop anybody. But you can make a note and then file that with the registration office in the district, and then challenge that. There will be a hearing. Another hearing, you can present your evidence. The person can also present their evidence, and then we live like a civilized world.
Last week I see the penny year around Paba no can your disclosure be my say baby uncle for protest the case near the cockot and for number or more filing complaints as soon as any see a register no mama.
And someone about
Yeah, but no must say uncle for it or monko.
One man bad, then say like Oko protest so obi near red obi. One bad said then the name stays there.
That's what he was saying. Say go for now wow because be obi any see a register no ma register the pan. I'm saying adjudication case number corner your friend or no how they complain about no mama.
So that means they are just intimidating you. So because it may just be to suppress the people who vote. They don't have any, randomly one more picky on what. I mean, you can't look at somebody and tell his age because I mean, when we were in school, I had a lot of classmates who I was 6th form and now form 5 and now university because but yeah, so if you suspect that, just file a form and then go. But you see what you are telling me is that that means they are just suppressing the vote. And that's why I'm saying the Electoral Commission shouldn't allow these people to come there to intimidate people, to catch people, to push people. No, you can observe if you see that somebody is not registered, make a note and then send your note to the appropriate place. That's it. The moment you touch somebody or you try to talk to a voter, you should be thrown out from the registration grounds or no. Okay.
Probably better be reading Govt become and I'm about to be about we'll see share video where 2024 in December 7th, December C. And what I'm hearing to na make say given the course where sub-region West Africa, hey, Burkina, Niger, Mali. Ghana baby etno enye ho true. Even yeah, this situation we're going into election true. And yeah, this in MPP. So Musubana mo free 2020 no. And say Subana mo free 2029 nipa 8 wu ye. It hasn't changed. In fact, about to we cry the tension I more because so sure 2020 no cry the MPP for new year omo 8. Nti as NDC. Na no yero abron pa confirm sa theory we na wo mitrim. Say 2020 campaign no cry NDC and shada man 100% vim. But this election, you can see NDC has put in their all for this election campaign. They are even in the 3rd or 4th round of the campaign. They've had time. Oma year Juma is at the end of MPP for 8 years. And the NDC so by the custom na Ghana until 8 years. Yes, if you going into election when I say tension way more, the stakes are more higher. Way more change the 2020 elections. So what is your prediction beyond video registration? What is your prediction? Osha between Mahama and Baumia?
Predictions and Tokwa
in terms of conduct, campaign. Have you observed them? Minister out here.
We are in May. You see, May. The elections are in December. Obia Abakachira say based on the course on politics, I say. There's an eternity. There's so many. And never be answer. Let's wait. Let them tell us what they want to do, and so on and so forth. Then the voters will decide. Maybe in December, November, it may be useful to predict. But why should we predict? You know, I've grown about few predict is higher then. Let them campaign. Enjoy the promises and so on and so forth. What did the American
But I'm campaign and so far. I mean, after my very cordial.
I mean, by the way, one me mini animal. You know, so I like the campaign. I like to see them share ideas and so on and so forth. And people should calm down. It's just an election. You raise your temperature too much. Look, it's just an election. Everybody has one vote. You go and cast your vote, go home, they will count the votes, and then they will announce the results. Whoever is the president is not going to change your life that much.
The conduct campaign message for the first time. I think the two leaders no. This in the MPP, but we have Northern Extraction, President Mama for Northern Extraction. After campaign no my very decent election way, very decent.
Because
Mama 24-hour, Baumia or Monfasti and the Mamma. There has been very decent between Omumi and Obi. Attempt did shut their name. What do you think about the common campaign messages in some more can?
Look, these are the two most decent people you can meet. I mean, I know them very well. You know, President Mahama, Commonwealth Hall. But me the now or try the school, Texas. I mean, on the tell me, bro. I mean, the decency. They are very, very decent people. The people surrounding them sometimes make them look bad because they say things and attack people and so on that the leaders Nakasa won't do. And you know, sometimes when I watch the people around them now, I'm saying, why don't you choose good people? You know, because these are people who people look at and then they make a judgment based on you. And you know, these two people will give us a decent campaign. They will tell us what they want to do and so on and so forth. And then the people who decide. I'm telling Ghanaians, calm down, don't fight your neighbor. It's all about election. When we have election, we are, you know, you still dokrono at the high price. Fish into kokun and kokun. Let them do that. And the Electoral Commission should also do its job. You know, Electoral Commission, you know, transparency. Sometimes even when we get like spreadsheet and infographics, so we not error, but it creates too much noise. You know, it's a mistake. But I mean, why don't they check and double check? Pay somebody. They can pay me. I can check all of these things for them before they put it out. They making sure it's an error behind it, because all these errors are not intentional, but a raise the amount for temperature.
Especially Prof. From 2016, any 2020 elections, these errors in be by Charlotte says time see Obi try so be hack it. Now you say figure so high mistake. James Sabah say announce results. Oh, mistake. And no tension. I create here. I don't know what would be your advice to Electoral Commission, because this where I am there means that if they realize it, well, it's supposed to be anymore. Who can mistake back one? A bit more than last the NIA coin. Serious.
They should avoid mistake, because you do this maybe once every 4 years. I didn't know or say Ubeka be a mistake. I mean, Ansana Jimensa, also Madame Fopa, Ansana Obeba out, Abeka, you know. Now about 6 different eyes to look at it. Make sure it's a mistake. Even IBI ya dirty eye, no TBI ya cross. And now about because you're talking about numbers, and numbers there we a mistake, but then people start losing confidence in the numbers. You know, I'm an accountant. Numbers are mistakes. One who they mean pekra. So I'll urge them. Don't rush to say things that you have not checked and rechecked and checked again.
Okay. Probably can messages in be, then we'll come back to another issue which na me pese me busa once I think Langas asem but there's another issue I wanted to ask you. Still it will be related to elections in Nadia, But Stephen Tufono say Ghanaians are not ready for NDC. Ghanaians don't like giving John Mahama any chance. If you may have Prof Nkobusa and say why and they will share obey winning and the Ghana for no more NDC but it looks like MPP for now Ghanaians will allow them to come back again. Well, Nipa beto but the last election I think 17.5 million or more but this election let's see maybe a 17.8 or about 80 million beto. They will decide nyame and then me know one pay. So they will decide. Govt say bonso say my friend. This I say this is kawa ene kawa near ebewu ene ebewu. I'm so part say election where they kawa ne kawa the obewu ne ebewu. Enti mo bi amfani team ko say the proper can and for team ko ja chrema. En ko for papa no kotene jubilee akonum brodo ni cheese akonum tea. Men last election ko bi konum tea wo easy. Men ko ha ho enko wu life niema bebre we yanim ye two for anomaty. Majestica say what Ghana is using the EC to do is very dangerous. Doing this Kululu taxes would plunge Ghana into another republic and is dissatisfied. Don't do that. Okay. Well, EC I don't know whether what for say EC BB. So explain it to what you think EC is doing. And now I say trivialization of issues, baby, honoma. And no calculating their tension. It shouldn't be like that. And you might be one my back can mother hoping, a young can muda hoping. No be answering wasi. I didn't want my yet. Maybe much that cause she shut a crowd with Jim just to create tension. What? Imano appears this year election, no court to be uncle court. You winning, also winning, no be uncle wasting the time. Our court be a. Some also say this scene at the registration center is very sad and uncalled for. Say, yeah, true ding keke munko trade niya. I told you DNA second. Why would you even do that? And I Loveless also as a prof. The government has to provide security, but EC also has to focus on the registration. No? But security need there. Or say prof, or no one say police for it is all they will have to be there because yes, sir, will be back of fire and rana and some I do a person or year. Loveless also as baby no say, Prof. Saza, if the parties have agreed to the Ghana card, and can we a cost on tokwa any actually cost registration in a Emma. Prof, what do you think about Ghana card? That's what Abrantiano is raising. Say, yeah, the Ghana card not to a bank away in Amma.
Well, you know, I mean, Ghana card a form of identification, and so it's good because you can identify yourself and so on. But I mean, why should the Ghana card be better than a passport or better than any other identification? You know, we create some nearly too much. It's just a form of identification. And then the other person, say. Godfrey and Obika said
Godfrey, yeah.
Mankasema police for koho. You see the numbers no does too much into it looks like woman intimidating amount for the police should be there, but not in the numbers that they currently are.
Okay, now I brought you back. Scam crowd say if I blame you for calling Prof who is not practicing in Ghana to come in and interpret the law. The Supreme Court has not. Prof in cases those are the court. With the agro lawyers are Ghana. Baby, you need that amount of cases of the court. Supreme Court. Unim constitutional jurisprudence are creating. What they are or he didn't Benjamin say. He said, if you allow the only a prof and in fact we're enjoying the education and the some will also know say if you can compare civil cases to criminal cases. Okay, I think prof won't compare or no the prof can say cases kokota. Yenyan in tem na attempting justice in your juma. Said about obia when you fear cry the ote here manchinko and I said the ote jere on himself or the case kokota bedin in tem. Because Diabo, I want them TikTok and man a good TikTok. Say the only TikTok not than Diabo. They are all being forced to do TikTok Diabo because on him saw the case quarter. I bet check. But the case here, Juma, nobody will waste their time in Okobodia. Because the Okobodia don't claim him say Diabo so they won't risk it. But when himself quarter, I bet check Okobodia no any simple amount so. Obisi Okono go up at the very simple. But court to so. Alas, and Tahiru say majority of you guys here don't appreciate the knowledge of Prof. Demano. Remember, say the man is speaking as a professor. Then you must respect Asema Okano. Or the years, they follow political issues near the internet. Remember, can't say because only Ghana system. Ghana issue out there say. Now, Prof, no University of Ghana no go school. Or I'm go school America. go school we answer na hoko try there America di. Mom, I don't get it twisted class bia. Mo ka so nim there cause Ghana. No week bia ne man so court. Every week bia. In fact, what o ka so kosua law. There is no way I will be law e Ghana. Unsua about 8 cases a year process a case. From citizenship to one in the case in Ghana. Yeah, they check constitutional law. I have received the case has not started with okay, case Ben Aoka say it hasn't started. Now remind me here. Coffee Jam Fiosi Ghanaians are also easily excited. Bibia na Ghana for no mo can be near the need now so much attention, but I did be by was some for 2 mobo. No more share seminal. And to say the okay, coffee. Fela Makafu in a medical case here, but Obia can be. They don't even know the issues. I don't know filing a petition at court. So what is it? But Obia interpretation ye pe concession a tax. When you go Fela Makafu in a first a medical warrior who has no. Compare that number to the number of people who are even asking, say, yeah, e-levy, no. How much e-levy has government collected? Yes, that is e-levy, you. How much money has accrued from e-levy? And now Musa Fela Makafu in and come over the same vim. Musa myself S-Gracia started democracy in 1992. How much Ghana money and the chair S-Gracia? Nobody's asking. Who kind of Rose here or Ghana? How much money? And I are sinking into Rose are still quiet to do. How much money they are sinking into a year first of flooding? I'm still a crying short up a petting and we are now no a West is more now flooded. And I think here rainy season more. Meanwhile, you just son your man important. Shatawale I mean shut down because I want to hear for the but I agree with Shatawale about some of these things. Say you should buy a better here and say uno a contract. They can divorce anytime they want to. Until I divorce in the law for a reason, you know. It will question no and no I'm not to say if you there's also a good deed President Kufuor here. To the be a mobile. More can negative Kufuor no one fight corruption. But Papa na why no oh and I'm not abana and I am say I can't about free SHS President Kufuor here. But yes, corruption they on fight here. Any it's not like in any case, our job is not to sing the praises of the president and can you do my home. Alex Anderson says, I'm greatly disappointed in your commentary on the special prosecutor situation. You demonstrated ignorance at a point. Okay, I agree to some extent. For instance, baby, I'm not profiting. Yes, I got it wrong. I mean, say me nipa. When I'm wrong, I will gladly admit that I'm wrong. I was wrong there in blaming the president for forwarding the reports to the CJ. No, I was wrong there. Yes, I agree. Until accepted. If Kofi Kennedy say Kufuor has destroyed Ghana beyond this generation and beyond reprimand, Kufuor ba na Ghana nye. Kufuor ba ni edeka. Kufuor destroy Ghana how? Na me wonu nko ye but he didn't destroy Ghana. I don't know kwa na destroy Ghana. Yeah, Ghana for na kase nye. Thomas Kwame Champon say, you see the noise I war Ghana. Obia ye noise because of their particular interest, not really because he per se a boa or minor economy. Sami Jesse or say from Hamburg and Owasi Kisiejabe is not just being chased out due to any corruption against government. Because even in Ghana has already endorsed corruption in disguise. Intenya corruption BNT and Kisiejabe, edino everyone. Now I say, Prof, from what you are saying, genuinely, the systems have to come down. I don't know how, but we need to hit a reset button. Prof, what's the system now? Was it a reset?
Yeah, and
who will do that for us?
The people, because the power of the vote. When you go to vote, how you vote conveys a message to the politicians. That's how the system will change. The system will change when we talk, like we are talking. When we see wrong and we say that it's wrong. The system will change when we start holding government accountable. Look, let me give you an example back. Your school, that time, no, and womu judges, no, don't cool judges, no, one more for me Azukra commission, and one more report, one more SIB report, SIB, no, Special Investigation Board report. That time, the Minister of Interior, Secretary of Interior, Johnny Hansen, issue white paper. We were in school, university then. We said we don't want white paper, we want the full report. And we were ready to shut down the university, to go home until we get the full report. And the Ghana Bar Association, the Ghana Medical Association, everybody supported us. And because we could sing in unison, even the military government, they were forced to release the SID report. Compare that to today. GRNE SML audit report, presidents will issue white report. And said, no, we want to see the audit report. The president said, I won't release the audit report. Everybody goes to sleep. That is telling me that we have lost that collective will to hold government accountable and to get things done in the right way. And that's because now partisanship is dividing. So even issues that Ghana Bar Association should talk, they don't talk. NUGS, National Union of Ghanaian Students, which was
Adakra, NUGS, the Adakra.
One more test and one more time. So the student front has been divided. So we have to re-strategize and start understanding, say, there are some things that we can do politics with, but there are some red lines that we are never going to allow any politician to cross, no matter what. And when the politician crosses that red line, we should come together and say no. If we keep doing that now, at the margins, we can make changes, and sooner or later, we may see some.
And if I because then from what time, once I had do some more time, I think me bra penny na only how na do some in the school. At least before Kumi Prekon, just before Kumi Prekon, and Kumi Prekonina, the student body were part of it. It pops as soon as they say school for who test on the time ya okay. Say politicians na sponsor or more.
I know now say you figure out a way to stop it. No.
How do we figure that out? That is my question. How?
I mean, I can sit down and design something, but just randomly speaking, for instance, we can ban politicians from donating to these student organizations for political purposes. They can donate to other things, but you can't donate to TESCON. TESCON is a political organization. Politicians cannot donate to that. Not just students, but I will even include the media. So, for instance, I will ban politicians from giving contributions to some media men and so on. I will also emphasize say in Ghana, it's possible say we are minister of state and then you are on TV doing politics. No, I will ban that. And now we are CEO of a state-owned enterprise. Then an power MPP and this. No. Once you work for the state, you should be able to put off your political clothes and then do the work of the state, so that Obiba officer owns sell because of your political win, you won't deal with them fairly. And now will be the application for a position, but you feel say the politics and those are some things that at the fringes we can so the US, the one more Hatch Act. The Hatch Act is very restrictive in terms of what politicians can do and they cannot do.
Exactly.
What public servants can do and they cannot do. And interesting enough, US people say about USA advance. Kenya has the same thing. Kenya has the same thing. In fact, Kenya, for me, a political party formed some temporary committee to investigate something, and they put a university professor of a public institution on there.
On it.
Court said no. Once you work for the university, which is a public institution, you cannot do active politics. They removed him. So you can see, say, they are trying to remove politics from the state institutions. Because if you allow politics to permeate the state institutions, then there's a problem.
It is not just a problem. We can hit the reset button because I feel that maybe I doing that.
You need a determined leader. When you're a determined leader, you can.
That's no problem for him. Is he coming from medicine and people are now baby
Singapore was not going anywhere until they had Lee Kuan Yew. I mean, Lee Kuan Yew came in, and he and his group said, okay, we are going to do the following things. Initially, they were not very popular, but very soon everybody caught up, and corruption was almost minimized. We need leaders, but to get that type of leadership, we have to reform the way we do our politics. The way we do our politics right now, I don't think it can give us the right type of... Yes, because the politics now is pay and play. Utia what they are growing be. One out their own baby keke. So one election will be the 1 million CDC call, will be the 2 million. Into one win, then it's time to pay back these people. And that's why you end up with what Obroni friend polycracy in here, government of many people. The president has to appoint 200 ministers. Why? Well, because Obia one bandi bibino also ye bibi mano. Okay, so if you cut that out, then that's good. You go to UK for instance, one more election period, for about 3 months, and then they put a cap on how much you can spend on elections. It be a bit about 3 signboards. Every constituent no spending £1 into constituency, 30,000 people. The cap is example 30,000. So they try to make their politics inexpensive. Too much. So when you go out there, you are not trying to recoup from the system what you put in. But now,
what would it take to make here the NSA? Because I know last week CDD, director of programs, Abraham Paba, chair said even for MP seat before the contest, you should spend us 2015 research on my estimate to $85,000 to $100,000. MP.
That's very low. MP seat. MP seat would be about $300,000. $400,000. Even in so-called safe constituencies, like safe constituency near constituency be MPP for the NDC for the and you spend the money on the primary because we need primary say general election in the it's primary the way I want to check sikano na say them say no so much we
I just
It's when you have this type of system, you have to be a joker to think they are going to produce any interesting. No, nothing interesting would happen.
We even have a good leader or gun or baby, but because of that system went on to me.
Yeah, on to me. And I mean, for instance, all the people who run are probably very good leaders. But when they are elected now, then they face the reality. The reality is, how did you get here? That will be winning and obeuna ufie enipa 1,000 to obia ekrani receipt. Oh no mema 1,000 cities. Uba be constituents no mema way. Uba me way. And woman na expect to say ubeye bibi. Look, many of the politicians I am now for former. But unyaba policy, I even withdraw. Me person me bow because me person feel say also ye bibi mami. I want you to do your work, and that's how we should start thinking about these politics. But
the problem is it is the same system here politics. No, also see here good leader be change. So how would a good leader go through this system? No, be leader papa obey me change. How would we fix it?
You start with political reform, political party reform. Look, people don't realize what we are doing now. No, one more friend, clientelism. Like voters, your clients, you the country that practice the most serious form of clientelism is US. USA. But they came together, politicians on both sides, and realized that, look, if we don't stop this country will go into an abyss. And then they started with political party reform. That's how these primaries started, as the voters will choose the people, not the bosses. And with the voters are choosing, and yes, delegates, Ghana delegates, voters say, Obia register as a voter or register as either independent Republican or Democrat.
Okay.
And so before they do their general elections, so they have primaries, and the primary, every registered voter who has registered as a party cannot go and vote.
Oh, okay.
And because there are so many people voting, you can't say it's too expensive to do that. So that has gone now. Campaign on issues. So that's where
you first say no solve a problem, because I think NDC is trying some bears, NDC and it was registered party members.
Which is fine.
But it expanded it.
You have to expand it to include Obia or member of your party. Okay. And if we do that, the state itself should be involved in empowering the party members, because people don't realize political parties, a constitution, a creative one. And the constitution has said every Ghanaian has a right to join a political party. But what does it mean to have a right to join a political party, but no right to vote on who represents that way? That is made me feel in fact that case might be who has the back of court, but I don't, you're not judges, but because I feel voters have a right to vote in these primaries. If we do that now, it will reduce the cost of elections. And if we reduce the cost of elections now, you see, the pressure on presidents and others to do favors to people, and also back off.
Okay. A problem. Mommy reading message we say, say about mommy 8 years. I can't another 6 months now with Akonya. So I think President Mahama time me busa the same question. See, 8 years into Nanado Aban, how would you rate him? How would you rate him? But my reading message is answer. A year first say upon Benjamin say procurement breaches. Normal ana. So can he change or prosecute someone because of procurement breaches? And okay, I'm saying I think maybe because of introduction and say so if there are procurement breaches you bet me prosecute you be and say your law causing financial loss ebini ya dey said in tamaklu no nti when they see what causing financial loss and also a offense Ghana nti e jeli obi a na say special prosecutor report just and confirm so the ghost names ashem ebi and everyone can ghost name is a deliberate scheme. So what kind of special prosecutor report will be a leaky? It's a deliberate scheme. I did Jessica Pepe Uncle for or Moody. Or was so and that's even the reason why my special prosecutor start investigation in the first place, so that they can fish out some of these people to let law not deal with them. Majestic Amantia say if you and your radio, your media people will never give a chance to a good person to lead our country. That is why it's pay and play. Well, now media for the vote saying you vote to go and do baby. Ghana youth 18 to 34 vote here 10 million out of the total number. Media for the bedding. Majestica say Asante here you should talk to Nanado and J Mesa to stop the episode of the Professor Sarisi and Kanjo the catcher Nanado ni J Mesa to stop the Omuyeno. Do not force Baumia on the people. Let the people will be done. Well, the people's will is what is going to be done. So Nanado want to Abamobia. Imano appear say Alan is a determined leader and Konuna Konya Abado and Kobe changing Yama. Nanado they saw die be done or they buy na say one candy abaso and no have them no they take Akonyano so but said your prof can have your money ni sikenti Ghana phone to Emma Alan. So, Prof, what do you think about Branty Asamoka Alan Chairman? Ne candidate or they call Afrafantui? Do you think he can do it? And I know hopes in better say it's likely selection never cost second round. Will be to me winning first round. A cost second round, so Alan will emerge. What do you think?
Well, some of my cats me, I don't like predicting elections, especially in May. Anybody can look, election is about exciting people with a message. If you don't excite people with a message, you can't do well. You have to be exciting. You have to have a message. You can have 3 or 4 issues, but you present it in a way that excites the people. You can galvanize people and anything can happen.
See, one time, Prof, they amount Atakane before say, no, I think I spoke to Atakane. No, for say Alan could have a chance, but in the beginning, primary time, and he would have been a better year chain there. Or no, as or no, JJ. What do you think about primaries now?
Well, it is what it is. So we get primary soon. Now we also a jai. We call independent. So the independent, he has to tell the people what he wants to do, and if he assigns the people, then we will see. Like I said, I don't like predicting elections. It doesn't mean in my head, no.
No,
I mean, I don't mean, but I don't want to come and influence anyone. I want people to they themselves say what they want to do, give everybody a chance to sell their message.
Okay. Mama, yeah, Branty, Elias, oh, comment we are better make it.
Mpatcho me da woni wetie for ne yahwefo ase fada me patcho me da won so ase na asem bakra na me pesa me kan fa ID card no hono ene Ghana card no hono say Ghana card no anka me ma dream no ene me nsusiem no namba bia ye wo no ntie timi hu say emfa so pa anka ye de I quite remember the last me kan he say ID card no me nye sure say ya bato nko na Ejina Homa. As I say, open say, and maybe about person could be crana. They will ask you, say, oh, card there, soon as see, oh, card bentin. Be a certain no man, crime man register. Most of them in Yanya 18 years into me can say, Uncle Sakrana, Yaman can register. Now from there, no, easy. Ebenya means be or debate indicate say, a drew say, be a trial by biometric machine, no, a bit me detect him who say, when you're 18 and when you're 18 to about Yaman and to but for the meantime, on ID card, no bit him there, had a for. And to say, be a carton, ID card, namana. So right now we are going to give you the ID card, but you cannot use it in voting, but you can use it for any other thing. And cannot okay. And perhaps apart from ID card, no, so no Ghana card, Papa be the car or this one thing, my drums is here. And I'm besides or coin also the boat to her or and I'm saying Fabremo. I said there be me almost me the one I'm sister boat to her. Both no sinti am want if car no no bibia antoka no why Oslo den je Oslo say so you list mistake na me report na car no police me free police na me application me report on police me report on police say pe the ID card no so the details ni be bia so now here be the case who wadwuma mu kra na say yamfa insurance number am na okọ hospital ye je ID whether your inmate ID or whatever ID you have, Omojia, would details will be so anything car. Voters ID card, I say, Pona ye be basso, na fena ye be basso, you see a man crown and register, and the crown abia next month, yeah, when you're 18 years old. Now, so you see your money registered there when you're 18 years, and you will be 18 years, not a brain at your move, that's a term, dinner or baby, and I know not. Obi so ka se obi no nkra no bi no ho a omo wo school mu yes ebi no ho a omo wo school mu enti satam na onya kwan mrefie na ID card registration na e wo hen and apart from say father na all ka se the say yenra schools na ye mo hu se enye MPP and sorry to say NDC bi no na obia and ye responsible of these things and those things me ka say enkran do na anya admission to some colleges and some universities no minister bi MP bi and a man kwan mo koye nti say wo ba school na so be kansen bi afa kuwe ho na kuwe ho on twem ma esan say obi na man kwan mo de ko school no
and so last point now here no oh yes sir because me per se ye jai green say obi fa ban sika e de ye bibi ma wo a na oso koda na se because a ban sika no enye emfi onu ni botom na odi ye o ye ni etua ye taxes and na ye taxes ni bi na no what tell say me do ko she school mu odo ko she school mu e fine but no nche say anopa bi oso na okoda na se you may be also na koda na se dabi we yesa na chese unti se ne ye aban ana se aban bi ba no so my road amount we your road amount no o dana se road no ni papa sika no de ye ana den. Number 2 minka se voter ID card hu here kro bia ni wi ase ho ID onipa ni ID because who ni ID how do you even run the country? I'm just saying say ID card no you could have multiple because obi wa our passport obi wa our Ghana card but obi wa passport no person or register to vote the passport identifies him, you should be able to register him to vote. So, but don't make the Ghana card the only form of identification. Nobody even makes a distinction between Ghana card and passport because we'll be our Ghana card. And that discussion disappears naturally because Obia will be. But say no, I develop Ghana card. No, my treating it say and no pen a card a team identify Obi because remember say before Ghana card we were able to identify ourselves. Don't push people and say then we cannot identify. That's what we are saying. But we are not saying a Ghana card is not important. It's very, very important. Ghana card. But at the same time, no, me pese ya ratio biya to go and sideline say okojibi. In the meantime, if you have another ID, no, the government should be able to use it because it's a government document.
So what you say?
Maybe there is an untold story. Be a father unim and say ya passport or my muhami way and maybe by you see a mind binum quine say or more crime or more high adaya almost no more binding on babuna hana and yet some I know I am more quina gana can na alata for in so can na this student say alata for maybe busels by no high now the attorney say alata for no bar or more passport Ghana passport. And if you sit up there, say, Yama will be our passport, choir. I'm saying, and also Sano, and Shadam, why papa, and Shadam, why papa. Yes, I say,
Abe Ghana passport, man, woman, your mama, Alatania, into no, yang, Mimi Dianoso.
And Bomiana.
I mean, the organizing. Maybe they are genuine. Maybe they're in the card. Na alatania ko jibina munko chino ana munko yebina munjami.
And you know, Brasami, good evening.
Good evening.
But you your comment how?
Yeah, me that's so my opportunity say memraso. Me problem kakra office of the Special Prosecutor. Me call law school there. Now, so no, America hana me wono. Minimum say, 3 bodies being it me appointed Special Prosecutor. A court, Congress, and Attorney General. Now, Special Prosecutor and ya appointed wa. Yama with specific instructions be. So, who investigating now prosecuting case ni we are. Special Prosecutor Office and Shadanya permanent office said ya moya no Ghana no. A temporary office be almost usually prosecutors on special cases be. And I had to say a special prosecutor who no authority be because just say Attorney General and a bar point no could what me prosecutor. Now they now say could say Jabindia. Officially, I have no customs. Cars are more clear for the past 5 years. More for whole reporting. I'm saying Parliament almost a mistake. I was amended Special Prosecutor laws. No, said that mayor witch hunt office be our Ghana. If and one second, assuming sister like that park is here by a bicycle be in our office. I didn't know say Kisa Jabi Etimiko searching my mini fee without even the approval of the Attorney General.
Okay.
And then from the court. And so it's not searching
beyond how no.
Yes, actually he is rubbing shoulders with the Attorney General. Yeah, it's a cabana sacra. Would the market you market on the a witch hunt office? Say Kisa Jabi on Pobia Sama. Obeting our corner. Me feel say no in a good democratic country no. Yanya sakra. Even president can only who can say oba appointed Special Prosecutor. Only who quite.
Even amendment law, no. Okay, okay. Prof, what do you think about the Brasami?
Bros, I mean, in some no konopana or start or say one color school or color school and can who be who pie. Law school. Now, several things are okay. Number one, if okay, Bim okay said, you start here, no, the catch was a micro, the way I almost assertive ways, main pet because they've just created another bureaucracy and all the problems that they had in prosecuting corruption at the Attorney General's office.
Brought it.
And I prefer American model now. Brass American say in Kabia Sembi Bar. Nanka ya appointed special prosecutor no ashemu. Now at the end of it, and the power no asu. But it is what it is. Ghana too can fashion our own solutions, and this is the solution that we have created. So we can, within limits, experiment. And I don't think, say, special prosecutor may abuse the power to send a brass American because he has to operate within certain parameters. And if he doesn't know, the court would always tell him. So, for instance, on my Cecilia Dapa example, no, Oko CZ Sikano because of Phil said Sikani tainted. Well, the law says if you do that, no, then within a certain number of days, no, or so Oko court, now Okoji freezing order, and now confiscation order. One koya assembly into no Ukai said one more court.
Yeah.
The court said you were outside the window and therefore send back the money to her, and then she Osako CZ and did some other things, and then finally or decided there's no corruption, but it's money laundering into Odikoma Yoko. So even though it sounds like the special prosecutor can be very powerful, the special prosecutor has to operate within certain parameters and only outside those parameters. Now, me and a special prosecutor law no. In addition to whatever powers are or one, Mesa Mano, the power to do the homo friend or bruni friend lifestyle audit. Lifestyle audit, actually say, who especially who a public officer, now lifestyle, inconsistent with your income, and now assets now what declare no. That should be enough for the special prosecutor to come and ask you, say, what assets no unya. Look, I say corruption is a big problem in Ghana. I say most of the revenues that you generate, and call people, we have to also be creative. And while I like the legalities of what Brasami is saying, I also understand, say a solve corruption problem. And the way we will do it is what many countries are now beginning to do, this thing that we call unexplained wealth audits or lifestyle audits. The special prosecutor should be empowered to do that.
Prof, I think you're on a brass. I mean, it's running. So I'm not. But special prosecutor and take advantage. Don't penance them crowds who unexplained wealth. Oh, me sure crab ya how could you make a bray was school? Oh, bet too many. Obenya them more was school power.
General Subit Myers. I mean, Attorney General Subit Myers. I mean, look, the important thing is the Attorney General, the special prosecutor never has the last word. Or by investigations, we are also they call independent judge. And one yet whoever is investigating, our lawyer, the lawyer will also point out all the loopholes in the problem, and the judge will tell us whether the special prosecutor has exceeded his remit or not. So there are checks and balances. If there were no checks and balances, like a special prosecutor, no investigator, prosecutor, and a judge, and
okay.
But as long as there's a judge who would consider the issues, then it's okay.
Me pacho make me akasem bako. Make me akasem bako. And I feel so. Once I know, I had almost say no special prosecutors now. All private citizens. They don't work for the government. Now they tina kisajabe or a lecturer at the University of Ghana. Now he also appointed as a special prosecutor.
Oh, no, previously not a lecturer. And I'm appointing. One more appointing, I don't know whether he continues to lecture.
He was working for the government. He didn't qualify as a special prosecutor.
Oh, why not?
I didn't.
So when he say, I had a mono special prosecutors, or me a private citizen, or man can say be on law firms, or me on the case this year. They are appointed for my prosecuting cases.
Kisia Jabin had his own law firm.
Was it?
No, Kisia Jabin not on one law firm.
But still, I know a paycheck from the government.
And then they say that doesn't matter.
I'm not trying idea.
Oh, baby.
I don't know what you say. Oh, yes, special prosecutor.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, on private citizen, on your bayajumano.
Okay.
Nanka, but such people, they are very fair. Such people, they are very fair. And Walmart can almost recruit to employees and under them to investigate cases. Okay,
very well. So far, Ghana law, US law, no. So far, Ghana law, no dear. We haven't seen anything. I just will boo Emrano. So, Badmon, good evening.
Good evening, Sophia.
Adomozo.
And I say, when I'm saying last week when I did trust me about what hopes in Barcelona, yeah, I think
there be a network.
Yeah, remember chair processor. I teach cinema or dear my teaching more dear my I'm say, if you me crum, I don't know for Bombison Fubu and tell me the X-ray. Now, the very American can say, Siciano, so a special prosecutor now. I say, it's a ban appointing or ABBR. But you see, I say, a ban so such an essence in the view of baby, and I say, a ban so answer won't be because when to me, idea on one can say, or first what need to me. Because I'm saying, crop for now, I want a bank crop for one who piano, the beer babyano. Just I saw move pulling it back, move it back. A beer show call Sicilia, the power of Pesicaya. Truck of Capena, who for so bad out the castle, only so a beer of Quidella, who buried. And I'm in a day, whom be free, the JC or the fun free. The Argentina, I see the whole president. Now, a beer, special prosecutor, what you be, who will be timber out. I because you, if you are moving, say the idea made your West, and I say, if you are, or Cocasen, Siaga. You don't have to, you don't have to. President, you need any authority, I say, or comment here this kind of situation, because a comment here will be any say, hey, any. Papa, I'm saying, or Tata and Incorporate, and I say Incorporate, or push, or more, we say. It's a banisa, nice, or be unfinished, then GDBia, near Ibia, Nemabia, who appointment now. They appointees now, so appoint for me now. I'm say, Nino, before babyano, or powers whom be fit, or powers whom be fit, neither had the line yet. I clear, I can see no funny agent, because on my point. Emma, Ebia Yoko, now say, bien, I for no, Ebia in your Mojuma, because President didn't know what kind yet. So, what we are direct and as well, no, quite see a so any idea President can win you so. Once more, how much you be ready?
Okay.
Sana has Sana run for you. So, how near be ready enough here. I'll go that now. And I think I'll come back and say, minimum, easy, minimum idea, what change for the whole 4 years now. I say, what church would you? And as will be a cartoon. I will be a barber every single day, because all 4 years mandate, I am. I saw make sure say, will be a bit near barber but quite a bit not now. Some manaka 6-7 months. I ever trouble. After now, barber everything, will be doing some trouble. Because say the almost yellow and the company to come to pay number. Because who be a metric. Say every year, Biano will be a tour. And that's me be every single day, Biano. And so will be a tour. Because every day you'll be 18. Every day, Bia will be 18. And you can charm and I say, you depending on you know, at a war being so back as Sepa was being so now I can get it. You won't age in one. But you say, Bia, Nipano or near, but maybe when you say, was from Munagase, when you know near. And see, the best thing is Nipane bar. To make maybe office I can see. ato uba for passport ba for ID card bra for school yi bra ni yen kese ebia ade a wo de ba no ene wo age ni wo yi no etale ana wo parent when ana se nipa obetumi agina o e dance a say this particular person we oya 18 years nti betumi atwe ni si anyane sa na se ebia ye gya to mu to this particular obi a and before am crop from de omba and this for so am crop from de ba nti obi de na si ayi me so mo di Muslims ladies bi therefore bi add by and I know confront to kwa ni say kwashimo sa wo hwe say ba bi e confront to kwa digidi school for ya cost mu nyina gu basin e don pass so metro mi nti esa wo yi si no asa wo kriti tension ama electoral correct na akofa nsem bebre ani say bia no so twetwe se kan ni nyama a ekum kofi last time I can say ne podcast
time as
yeah ne me rako je me kan ni pray podcast anka be ya anka court ni mesi bi wo bo me ne yi am say ampa because wo hwe ada am say kwa area no hu say ensem bebre sisi
the last time I'm coming na
ni hu am say nkoko say na de ba do say e sure because nkoko na mu say me say na e bo ba te nu say am say jima no ko ni hobim kokwa Judicial say him baby and na ibu apart from that no me am kokwa me ko Ghana senti I mean me timi hu say bia e bi da so ha na say bi any but ni sure because am say kwa udi am say be be say
me pay attention because me dey am talk but ogbo ni obomi ni prior so
abomi ba so and big town say police station kwani am say prior so na police station ni ayiwo because am say honu hu nsa this kind of criminal cases ni criminal nema no ho ntinti dan say abana he da yi nani say we are sani ma we dey am say kwa we dey ho de mu ye mu ni prevent mu ye nti am say say fan besi ada wase professor chia
sika na mo penti mu hia court mu de sika na mu ye business man say ati mo MP e honorable by the campus to hotels no e be ka wan so kuje to abla kwase MP for na ye won chendi Senate hotels akete ni na mpeso mo de ma ono nko a and that has sparked the whole petition honorable kuje to afile ewo penifo ni said they should investigate all these things and he was saying that there's a history to this MPP bar no more person omo che but and then na komi aso kan and properties NDC bar omo nyina so cheche bar omo crop omo tonton people who were in NDC government it's well it's some way. Michael, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Sister Fia.
How are you?
Adumo,
great, ain't you?
I'm a chair professor.
Also
Mike.
Yeah. To me, I think sir OSP office no omungunu is causing financial loss to the state. If I should be an issue. One say I dream partner nanado criticize office in Crawford office
Michael come on ha.
Me bala say I dream pa nanado chair or criticize office in Crawford ye juma on I say omunti ejuma na ase office na da pa am so omunti ase and I me do share no ohun ejuma nani so and always I no and always I no e jabi so ba no so all that say ejuma no hu so since o ba no since via case when our prosecutor won say whatever prosecutor case bia with a concrete evidence that then they are going to say we chanty bisa. Oh, as
are you saying the case is no dear change? I be any one or we chanting. Shana report here, obi sneaky or their mommy. People are chopping money.
It's an allegation. Without no evidence. Allegation without no evidence. Allegation. Me can't be this allegation. Prove it. Find the court. Not court to prove some point this car. What you see? Just prove it to a court. There's allegation. Oh, you file allegation, boom, yo. Evidence. Say yes, I got the evidence. So, what's all rushing giddy? Cause it's like a panifie. My mistake. Why not because people are pushing him. Oh, why
they pushing? Why now also pushing?
Oh, say maybe the young Kofubu are here. Maybe say Obi was or pushing about office now or wanting to know. I say why superpower be? Oh, maybe one call the right way processing now. All the questions that are packaged, you know, can you say about it? Me say, I can't say me say, Nanado are failing when it comes to corruption. I need education here, and person mean education more. So if President Ben Owoswa, or no other prosecutor on in Crawford.
That be President Bianyasa.
Me who be that?
Another prosecutor on one in Crawford.
On one in Crawford. Minty be that.
Oh, not the President Kufuor and Malamisa was in his government. He was prosecuted.
Malamisa was oh yes, I did because no MPP new. He came from somewhere.
And
CPP.
Fine.
There were a PNC, not a PNC.
Sorry, PNC. But the true MPP Nippon as well can come on, they will not do it. It will take a different person outside the box or no the evidence of back of the court. Now prosecution Nippon. But the real government, they will not do it. See that. Okay. So it will take it will take maybe change of government. Maybe I ever say MPP call position and this about. No more, I'm coming to the concrete evidence. Or be a discount junk quarter. On the very Jumaka classing there, or no president, but postcode on him cover. A bad thing. As a bad thing.
And I also just as not doable. You bet you do no crap hard. You know him say ni pie bonia. It should not matter whether what by or another what by no. No cry, no cry, and try and throw. Bad, ya bad, crime, ya crime. I was saying, President Mahama Tiakonya so Abuga Pele no President Mahama Bemu. But they started the prosecution when Mahama was in power.
But no, it take a private citizen lawyers, I don't know.
But they started the prosecution when Mahama was in power. And Abuga Pele was part of his government.
But you know, he have no obviously I don't mean because it take a private citizen. And
the question Nana don't start any day in his government.
My private citizen being correct the person will go to court. Because Abuga Michael,
recent report by Fanny America President, a movie anywhere. I'm not aging attorney general because I movie anywhere.
I'm just but I have nothing to do. And they were pointing Crawford. So be the money when I bear more. Who is citizen here? You have the evidence for the political court. Yo. Yeah, enter me patches.
Yo. But Michael, my what they about Mr. Kwati? Mr. Kwati, what boss? I'm good evening.
Good evening, Evia.
Everything.
Boko.
Good, you.
I'm saying Crawford hit on the registration exercise already. Go easy, you know. I don't know to me in secondary school and register in Colano. All these 4 years since 2020. Every year be no alcohol because I honor with my 18-year-old. Now the equipment I could see what. No, I register because mobile polling stations here. Omu to me called true trauma. In Tokwani Sisana. Baby. On your ID card no so. Main election no on the toaba because what be hun tokwa ASU or polling station. But school no tokwa be and tokwa secret students on one or among themselves. There wouldn't be too much of a chaos. But yempeni for no, I don't know what goes in their mind. Sometimes some more ye BBI and tears here. We don't say sika no more save your more squeezy say your money budget no now. Instead so best spread the budget normal squeeze na limited be normal kaka crazy na dia can normal pocket there number bonti no moment can tire ana my last point is me bisa prof say no can be say yen go to aba na ewia na yen ko fie ni all this it's on so better my educate here kakra how do the voters protect their ballot, their vote.
Okay.
I mean, let's say you vote at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning. The counting is not going to be done till the polls close at, let's say, 5 o'clock or whatever. And then polls need close here. Counting, where we are counting, every candidate, ni agent are original. Agents no and they monitor the counting. They are the ones protecting the vote. Into your presence there, no, it doesn't do anything beyond you say yeah, and that's the same thing here. I mean, Democrat. I'm one of the attorneys. When they are voting, I go around making sure they are not turning away minority voters and so on and so forth. But my role is very circumscribed and so on. I just go. There aren't that many people there. One more yes, sir, because the more people you invite to do these things, the more confusion you are creating. And so I'm not saying it's a party agents shouldn't be there. The party agents should be there, but that's all. No, our two so we need any other role I'll be player. Just being there, it doesn't add any value.
Yeah, because the reason why me bisa question was the Usha baby and Tokwani see at the registration center now. Police no cry di omojina hokrano. They were helpless.
Yeah.
How much more say obenya two polling agents say omo monitor your whole center be see no more overpower police for now. What happened?
So we know with the problem with this is that agents the doors people who were monitoring them. I don't even know whether they are agents or just amount for now. One more kase won't mean register no. That's what I'm saying. All of those people shouldn't be there. The more people you allow to come and interfere with either the registration or the voting, then the higher the chances that there's going to be confusion. So all I'm saying is all the people there, most of the people there shouldn't be there. And there should be one agent and no agent or suspect say qualified to register. He shouldn't confront you. He should just make a note and then file it with a registration officer. That's it. So there's no interaction between the person trying to vote and the people who are challenging his or her credentials.
And challenging, so challenging. How often, how fast are they able to resolve it? Because maybe before perception say, yeah, challenging crana.
No. They one more calendar. That in fact, the EC recently published by region the number of challenges, and then they have a certain time to resolve it. And as Efia was saying, most of those people who challenge, they don't even come for the adjudication. They're just making noise in the time so for adjudication. Not yet declare say,
but Prof, we share data now. Data no mobile publish here. We share trend now. Who to know say MPP stronghold no, there were fewer challenges. And I will share NDC strongholds now. More challenges into I don't know where imbalance some way.
I know they say it's dependent on the parties. Agents for now on so for MPP stronghold no one challenge here. EC cannot do anything about the data. So it's rather sad data is good for NDC and MPP say. I think MPP for stronghold no challenge less. So NDC as a party can take in the no, we are challenging more. You know, even constituency by constituency, polling station by polling station. What is the general makeup of the place? Because there are some polling stations, but perhaps that can explain. Wow. Party for who you take this is the what's the last week? Now me can't say me say this is the time a party for the research department. So if you sleep in the job, this is the time our research department. Yeah, crucial moment.
Yeah. And that's the example I was giving. Say, even in the US, minorities are disturbed more when they try to vote. That's why the Democrats hire the attorneys for us to go around to protect them. And you have to make sure that one mono challenge you out. Then you also challenge them in their strongholds to balance it out. And furthermore, merely because somebody has been challenged, doesn't mean the challenge is going to be successful.
The word boss say what you say recent team there's someone catch one year homework inside that obi be use really a simple crowd. This is the time I was say and yeah then yeah okay good evening
Stefia Michao
Mejoso
Stefia meda a prophecy so what my a kakra na patron person me bisa prof say opuni case na ya start the Oracle Supreme Court no ya start case na Chief Justice judges no free we no so anas na start
me Joso case no na ya start to your friend is saying Oko Supreme Court normally do file your papers with the registrar into file we no na ya frail say bra na yebetie case no. And that friend I be from ube face some judges. It opening no friend no ko face 5 justices. And a 5 justices no emma or no ne other parties near Attorney General directive say munye say me mumbra me moba na yebu asem. Inti me na mobile no and who say panel no very different assistant. And I'm say na there na panel no assistant. Muma a reason ye objective. And I almost there be objection you overrule into panel we no na ebe we. Say the sire mea enya me de. Say the ye wo of akia enya me de. Say the ye vim lady enya me de. Into ye the opuni ana ye the ye obia and say ye de we or say you close your eyes to who is involved. And now you can say adie ye fair and ye fair. That's how you grow the country.
Yeah, Prof. Mati Wanasi. Now, Prof. A appointment of a institution's heads now na wo kan ho asem. E kwan ben so na Ghana ye befa because the finish yo me amitie yama omanpanyin no tumi no ye de tumi na hye ne sem dodo. Eni say yes our Ghana. Like say yes omanpanyin na onya appointment. Oko Shraja omanpanyin na appointment. NCC is too much. Oh, na Ghana for na so Prof. Ube sha Ghana for na so ye ka ho. Ye nya omanpanyin bia oba ya oka say osi tumi na ye de amano na dose nti Ghana for ye ngibi. Ghana for na so ye ka cho omanpanyin say tumi no on sign fa. President Akufo-Addo Dubai Oyasanka DC ne MMC is near the Kayan Twaba referendum near this okay. Every baby no, yeah, Ghana for Nibia Casa, Yam Praba, Yam Kotuna, say. Oh, every rabia, sir, a quite honor, a prof, Sir Quabu honor, Kaubet, Miashas, and a Babanaka in the Basayak, Yanyananka, to me at the moment, Penino, Yangi been free in sim. Yangi too many be brave from and penny sim, and yet, Anna, Osan Casa, Prof, who can say, a Jintrona Trono, a baby of honey assistant police by Bracogo, and no the Prof and on yardry. Because Ghana, the way ye is Tiana, your Ghana, your baby of her, so like Usha Bruno baby, the way the piano, your trodia, Sadia, Ayana, and Tokwania Dicino. Say ye nya amam before be bramo one kohona, the piano in Sembabao, shall ebine a Stefia now show train. Even a security agency for me and Sana Omudrano. Omunajno, because of Sanka Omudoso, Sabetana, Casasam and Kensi. Omya 10 and Kawa Kabibi Senka, Yadia Kebesi. And Tianumom dia also a Shenie. And a prof can say, or the Samia Okumuya example say, Supreme Court case, Samia Okumubaki can say, Bima Ubisa prof Sena. A basse Nipebi take action. I'm a prof can say, a bear then a banisa, but how many prof when you because I'm on your phone. Omukasa, Omusho Mukasai. Still, a biasa ya to abeya e ka se nipa be 7 na ewu obi na kofro obi na tie mu ma nipa ne ba yo obi na tie mu e ma nipa ne tifie na oba se me party ni we nti me ba bebo ya ban ya to ne ho ban na ma ewu ne ko ba e enti se wo yo man yo ni na se wo ba whether NDC MP na wo be kana sabe wo be kan sama sabe ntasuma also Ghana for in a catch us as some now can enye menka because Ghana no yina ye peace nti so obi o ha akomo no obi o ha or die hard NDC die hard MPP ni CPP nti so to say pay bi ka bibia na say you enyo odi akire tire bia na the confusion ya de na de insem bebre ba nti ano nso no also amanyofo no ye hwe ye kasem ne se de besi aka ye Sabi ya to abana se wulusu a anya no na kire se lose no na wo kwako e den a wo bedi e den a wo be call position wo be ba ba mu utimi ntra ba mu sa no e den a ye beto atia.
Okay.
Enti ado de so omo hu we nyina na Ghana ne koso because Ghana say a esema ye nyina. Enti prof Mr. Ayi on my appointment na edema on my pay ni ade no. Ekwan ben so na ye be fa ye betimi
the powers be. Okay, prof.
Ya cut me say ba say a petition na yensan a yenye na yensan bi. Na ye hu say ayi niam bi o ha ni say ayi o man panyin ye appointment no. Na yenji bi from unsem. Say fi am da say.
Yo, yeah, that's it, prof.
Okay, that's it. What be some questions be brain na me hwe say meet me answer be. Number 1, o man panyin powers no. You know say so kind of constitution no o man panyin powers no and yet as broad as we think it is, because if you are yes president no or appointed in consultation with a council of state, if you are yes on appointed acting on the advice of a judicial service, you can say appoint acting on the advice of the judicial service. And no na say judicial service one woman na mobile nomination no president there what letter say okay my appoint one because advice now mobile on be man you see do it so na ye law no ya na ye kan law ni ye into no ya didn't nyina to abom a consultation na be the same as advice and so on and so on. So that is number 1, appointment power. Can be about police intimidation numbers no. Look at the number of registration centers. You bet me the 10 police people are called each registration center. We just don't even have that number of police people. So the important thing is that macho people now call distraction. Woman or see a you because woman cause confusion. It's not the number of police who are there or not. It's the number of macho people who we allow to go and interfere with the way. And the last one only DC voting, ambassador constitutional amendment. The reason ambassador is because now most Ghanaians say they want to vote for their DCs.
Yeah.
They don't want party politics because party politics more send or national level. The local level at the mom farm party politics. And the president says some party politics there and referendum so that's really what actually happened.
Good evening.
Sitafia, good evening. Michelle Professor.
Professor Joseph.
Sitafia, me Special Prosecutor Assembly. Me who say much I do about nothing. Jobs for the boys. And a president, and a political slogan. And Tomu buy, not just so criticize office, If he says if you are Ghana, 30 million people. The office of the Attorney General and the Ministry of Justice will watch. Their powers are enough. Saying kebit me handles are near my way now. As also, as I said, next slogan and sa 2016, I did 2 Abama and they have to create it. Create it so clearly the office has failed. And Tina Juma because we Juma or China we say. Ye copy blindly. Yen share ya sitrim ni yen share ebe boy ya sitra. Yen share ye ho niema. Democracy na brofo no. Over United Kingdom almost started to abanye no. En kakran as they say. Me nansi ye election bi wo ha me tifie me system mu ana me ye me registration. Me mpian ko ba bia. Continuous registration. Eno an ekoso ha. Enti yesra ban no say omo nyen hwehweye na continuous registration nkoso sister fia me ametie ma ba Ghana abe register with electoral district office that district coordinating office and then election time because omo register me kama enti adentina say ye twen na enipa ko bo piece wo baby ansa na ye twetwen sekan na ye leaders no musia de ya say there's leadership crisis but omusia de sister fia ansana me kono me pese me fa akonya we so na me bo asante hena baso asema yenka omuntanka but bosumi anana watwi kakra atwa mi de papa na ye wo Ghana no ma political pressure ne amanfo pressure kura ba fom kakra especially
program no ye na no ama pressure aba fom.
Oh yes, at least who say Kumaso na ni je ohonom there was entertainment. Enti
yes, politics no to kakra.
Aha, so ti kakra.
Okay.
And I hear papa na who say obedi ade watimi asi auditorium ometimi aye eniema wo ho. Na creative art for no aban no promise oye kura won timi anya amaye won timi anye. Ba papa na timi aye.
I know.
Watimi ahwa ma airport no omo dia be drum pempen so obi. Eti yemfa akonya wesu ne mo papa na baso waya ade onipa ba akupe ohene ba akupe ena otimi yes ade no eti waya ade eti se fia beda mo asepa me chia professor so
bravo okay that's a prof what about the issues now no raising no
ajaku ana
bravo
I mean okay say continuous registration meaning ya adwin say na maka Ghana no ye pet sa de a ye rush nyina in coastal line ya my 3 days mun go register to send a young kwala no I mean but you have 4 years why do you wait for May of the election year to commandeer all of us to go and register? You know, that mentality should go away. I think why they don't want to go away then because political parties say don't do anything unless you are involved because continuous registration that means they have to be there throughout. But people, we have to think about the country, not these political parties are more interest. After all, once people are registered, the voters register will be exhibited. And once the voter register is exhibited, if you have any problems with anyone, you can then challenge Nipano credentials.
Prof, Anthony, economic person we busa 8 years of abine or assets, rating is it?
That's a good question because look, Nanadu Obia me started follow no nyende. I remember vividly when Secretary of People's Movement for Freedom and Justice circle, Ghana circle, former circle, Orion, that kind of area.
Orion Cinema Hall,
Orion Cinema Hall, Tiptoe area, more mobile, big rally on the GW Amatefio, Kwasia Frifano, Mo Pa Willy Mono. So this is the right guy, maybe can't say, oh yeah, right guy, and I've been supporting him and so on. When he was coming, my hope, I wasn't too interested or even I thought so bit I solve economic problems because I didn't think that was his strength. The strength, I thought was rule of law. Papa we beba and making sure say your judiciary, your independent or be depoliticized, say security service or be media freedom and so on, because that's what he had built his career on. Unfortunately, if I have to be very honest, what disappointed me mightily to me, as long as I'm judging him on that criteria, I would say he hasn't been very successful.
And 6 months now, Kano, do you think he can correct anything?
I don't think so because I mean, what is he going to do to reverse all of these things in terms of the type of people he has appointed to the judiciary, in terms of the media problems, in terms of politicization of the public service and so on and so forth. The reason a lot of people voted for him was because they thought he would stand for the rule of law. But I'll tell you that this has been one of the era law Anya Jumayi. And it's unfortunate that I have to say it because, as I said, it's been somebody I've supported for very long and have followed and have admired. And so I feel very disappointed, if I have to be honest with you.
Okay. And Prof, you think it's because of the people around him or that or you're indecisive? Exactly why is rule of law not working?
I have no idea. Maybe he was not what I thought he was. Or I just know it's hard for me to understand some of the things that he has done, like hounding an auditor general out of office. Everybody, even if you on call law school that crowd him say constitution won't allow you to do that, and yet he wanted to do that. Your friend is covered by the way he signed the emergency. I mean, everybody knows you cannot sign an emergency proclamation with an executive instrument. On Facebook, I actually drafted how it should be done, and there are people there who work in the Jubilee House. They saw it. They didn't show it to him for it to go to court, for the court to say, no, you can't do it that way because it's unconstitutional. There are so many of these things that I thought a man learned in the law should not be doing that he has done. In the end, he's disappointed me mightily, I have to say.
Prof, I know your opinion. Do you think that Obe free Akonyaso by 6 January and 7 January and Opa Obe hand over no? He will be able to have a legacy or no president he would think he's done a good job. And I thought at this time he's aware, say he's not done a good job.
I don't know, because it depends on how people want to measure his legacy, or no, what does he think his legacy is? I would have viewed his legacy in terms of his imprint in the rule of law, but maybe he doesn't think that should be his legacy. Maybe he thinks his legacy should be how many MPP people he made happy or he made rich or something, so the way I evaluate it, is just the way I evaluate it. Other people may evaluate it differently. And I'm not trying to impose my evaluation on anybody, but that's how I evaluate it. And he can evaluate it the way he wants to evaluate it. But if he calls me and he says, Prof, what do you think of my legacy? What I'll tell him is disappointed.
Prof, I think our sentiment is echoed around. And now, a lot of people make say, I'm also very disappointed in the presidency. And like you're saying, rule of law, corruption, fighting corruption, system structures. We thought that we wanted to see that that radicalism. And that was the question that maybe media encounter Obusa president and said, Mr. President, have you been tamed by the presidency? Because that energy na say nanado me baby na me so na me papa sa ina na wo call circle ne ade no mo be ye bi wotema nti me di papa echi no de me ko ti be kwaku ba ko ne ma me wo sports bi wotema come to one for El Paso so mo be ye ho lectures ne ade na me di papa echi no de me di na echi ne yakọ. So I also had an admiration for him. Akoto ampa we and say we free money ade. Yeah, you are in awe. Like this is just even not a human being. And for Obeba power now, you can see that things are being spotted. This is, and it's not like the president cannot claim he's not aware. Everybody kind of say president we did this is not how we thought think we do man be. But so your sentiment is very much echoed around and kofo bebre eka ho asem. Nti prof you remember your time. I mean now I say Yakupon sha me say uni ada your school for cra twen na me so ma hijack and thank you so much. Thank you so much. Send
no bon komo ada bia manage ntino. I was so many agina yatimi akpese niema mu ntene.
Oba Ghana me do obekọ ayi ho no ye fro sen kra.
Baby, I didn't call you.
Maybe I'm do quiet. Yeah. Roots. I'm saying pro roots. Rooftop restaurant, you know. Yeah, me no be call. Yeah, me do lunch. Me no be call. Me that's baby. Prof. Yakupon sha baby yo. I'm saying for by Professor Asari, a friend Prof. Azar, or lecturer at University of Florida. Onukroyanso. America lawyer ni law accounting in the area power they try school for the in the university on ma oko CDD so oka omon penny for no be no a fellow hosi na only attention common like prof can this is his assessment also so a voter okuta one vote so no make assessment for yourself men blame you be said Ghana no make an assessment for yourself say na do I idea to so onya idea it's up to you what to do. And who you want to vote for. It's a matter of choice. It's a matter of choice. George Ejokum Kwame Nano Sevim, what do you expect from Professor Asari? Someone like Martin Pebu, please, the president who petitioned the Chief Justice or someone else. Okay, it will be a petition here, Martin Amidou. and now a petition akwa president na president so forward the akoma CJ no. Majestic I say I love this professor pa no crese he's disappointed asem no waka no crese the sese otumika scam say professor this is you I say wo nanado aye obibi na say obuafu no we nya about say nanado nya de nanado aye bi and John Campbell no say nanado is the best president ever Ghana enya prof ya yi na ye kakra na nye say de bia mo ba woni afia ne adam ba no ba be ka gu no so eti say de nanado ba onye hwe enti ya munyi na ye na monka bi ema no ebutafo ya fa musia no say ne da munyina ma say enemo ya asena mutie ye ewo just dwede me ya fa me bimle de afia poka next week ye beto aso I think Wednesday yani MPP for no ye 30 years of MPP USA we will bring MPP here to ask them about what have they done. Wednesday, come. Because Wednesday, we are going to ask them item by item. What have they done? 8 years here, what would they say? How do they want Ghanaians to remember them? That is MPP. Monday, Wednesday, any MPP for next year, we will do it item by item. What have they done? Sector by sector. Then baumia baby okonano osha techima baumia du osene na nantwinam foi aso mo mahunyame o enti whilst ebi mo criticize MPP no some people also see MPP there omo ye nyame kra omo no ma be change lives. I mean of course everybody is entitled to the opinion and that's what makes politics very beautiful obia and how they see Abino and how the Abino has made impact on them. You see, and it's very fair. Majestic, thank you for joining us today. Thank you so much for joining us today. Scammer, Don Campbell, no more joining. We appreciate your time today, and thank you so much. Good night.
A shrimp for Nabahan, a shrimp for right and coconut. Get inside. Please.